say hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and we have a cool colon, a cool colon. This is a great start to the show. I was supposed to be colon. A cool.
Cool.
That's Benny on the line. I've got him laughing. A cool colon.
I call it.
Okay, let me start this again. Hi, it's criminal profiler Pat Brown with a cool. I should have said that. Man, I was trying to be clever with my, so it didn't work well. But it's a cool call in today. Benny is here, and Nancy's going to be here later. We're going to be talking about psychopaths in movies and do they depict them correctly. So we'll find out. And Benny, are you there? Laughing on the other end. How's your colon today? Do you have a cool colon?
Yeah. It's a cool colon because we got a storm in Denmark, so it's cool in that way. But yeah, I'm Benny Thompson from Denmark, home of Carlsberg Tuber beer. I'm a proud Patron of the Pat Brown Criminal Profilers Educational Channel. That was appetizing. But as always, sorry for my poor English and my heavy Danish accent. I hope actually my accent will improve as we talk, because I have my friend beside me tonight, John Daniels. You might know him as Jack Daniels, old number 7. But if you've known him for as many years as I have, he's John to me.
We're going to have fun with Jack.
He's going to improve my mental and conversational skills as always.
Oh my God, we might be in a lot of trouble with the show today. We're starting off so well. I think Benny's drunk. I can't talk. Okay, let me say hello. I'm just kidding. Everybody in the chat room, and I also want to ask if you can hear both of us clearly. You're not going to see Benny, but can you hear Benny and me about the same level, or are you struggling anywhere? And I'll say hello while I say hello to whoever's here. Let's see. Anna is here, Gretchen's here, Lisa S is here, and Aisha's here, and you're here, and I'm going back to my list. Nancy's here. Good, Nancy. I'm glad you're here because I'll need you later for Jagged Edge. That's the movie we're going to do. Lisa N is here. Martin is here with his commentary, I'm sure. Oh, wait a minute. Martin says, that's what I'm here for. Look at this. Benny would have been world famous. Wait a minute. What would you have been world famous for? Let me find out.
A psychopath.
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that's not. And Annie Haley is here. And if I missed you, Scarlett's here. And now I'm going to go to the bottom to see if, yes, can see and hear. All right. That is great news. All right, cool. All right, because you never know with these setups when you're trying to get people to call in. So now, Benny had suggestions, and he was being quite a gentleman, saying, okay, I've been on before. I should, maybe other people would like to come on. And I have all these ideas, so maybe just one. But no, we're going to do 3 because Benny came up with good stuff. And I want to go there for what he came up with. So we're going to talk about 3 movies, which include a psychopath of some sort. The first movie we're going to talk about is The Cell, which includes a serial killer psychopath. And then we're going to talk about The Talented Mr. Ripley, which is a psychopath, but not a serial killer, more of a con artist who ends up killing people for situational purposes. And then the third one we're going to talk about is Taxi Driver. And Taxi Driver involves a psychopath who I would put him somewhere in between stalker, sort of mass murderer thinking. But we're going to talk about whether everyone agrees with this and whether Benny agrees with me. And then we're going to talk about all the elements. So we'll start out with The Cell, which we're lucky we're still friends, Benny, because Benny suggested that to me. And mostly during The Cell, I wanted to poke my eyes out with implements that were available to me. One of the absolute most awful movies I've ever seen. And the first clue was that Jennifer Lopez was in it, right? And we all know Jennifer Lopez can't act unless she's acting like herself exactly. So she's very pretty, but my gosh, she can't act. And then there was a lot of weird premises in the show and horrible acting all the way through by just about everyone. but the visuals really make people love it. And also, let me just read you what it says about this, and then I'm going to give Benny a little of the floor before I become. Well, let me just go ahead here. The Cell is a 2000 science fiction psychological thriller directed by Tarsum Singh in his directorial debut. I don't know if Mr. Singh has done anything since, but I hope it's something better than this. Starred Jennifer Lopez, Vince Vaughn, and Vince Vaughn. It was interesting. I didn't actually know it was him, so he was really different in this movie than his usual ones. And Vincent D'Onofrio, don't know how to pronounce it. The film follows scientists as they use experimental technology to enter the mind of a comatose serial killer in order to locate where he has hidden his latest kidnapped victim. The film received mixed reviews upon its release, with critics praising the visuals, direction, really, makeup, okay, costumes, and Onofrio's, I can't pronounce it, performance. And I don't know who did he play. I'm not even sure. Do you know who he played in that movie?
No.
Maybe it's a bad guy. That must have been the bad guy. While criticizing the plot, yeah, an emphasis on style rather than substance, and a masochistic creation. Despite the critical reception, it was a box office success, grossing over $104 million against a $33 million budget, and earned a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Makeup. So it was popular among many, and if you go to IMDb, there's a lot of people have it. A 10 on this, saying it's the most incredible film, and they've seen it 20 times. And I'm like, wow, you need to get a life. Yeah. So when did you see this movie, Benny, and what was your initial reaction to it?
Yeah, just want to say, if you're gonna, I know this is off topic. If you want to do a show on Peter Madsen, the submarine murder, I can be your go-to guy because I followed the case. Okay. But then the Cell. Well, I watched it when it came out in 2000 in the movies in the theater, and I didn't.
Were you abusing substances at the time?
No, I was not at that time. No, I actually did not know what it was all about. Actually, I wasn't really into the plot or anything, but I just remember I've always been fascinated with two artists, Salvador Dali and Vincent van Gogh. There's nothing with Vincent that resembles Vincent van Gogh's art, but Salvador Dali, the Spanish painter, there's a lot of this is from the inspired by works of art in those scenes where she enters the mind, and that was really something that let's just say it was awesome the way it was portrayed, because it was a dream world where you saw things. And it was not computer generated graphics. It was costumes, and it was the scenery was made into detail. And actually, there was a lot of art they stole from art. There's a lot of work of art that is put into those dream paintings, just like Salvador Dali. And there are music video scenes put into the scenery also. You can read about it, all the things that he stole from different artists to put into that dreamy scenes. That's why I liked it. I liked it just like if I saw a painting.
I can't disagree with you on that, because I love Vincent van Gogh, and Dali's not one of my favorites, but I understand his masterpieces are they are incredible, and so I love good art. And that is incorporated, and the fact that no CGI, that's pretty amazing when you think about it. And I want to point out, I think the reason that for me a lot of it may have just two reasons. So I got to be fair about when you're coming into something and somebody says, well, why didn't you like it? The reason I may not like something is for a reason that won't affect somebody else. So for me, one thing is. 20 years has passed, and we've seen so much with CGI and other things that create incredible, like virtual reality stuff. Like, for example, I've been to a couple of where you, and I also have the glasses, the virtual reality glasses,
Yeah.
those things. And then I went to a show on it was on Vincent Van Gogh, and it was an immersion thing, and it was beautiful with everything going around you from the ceilings to the floors where you're sitting there in this huge venue. And then you go and put the glasses on, and it was amazing because it's everything's around you in 3D, right? You think you're there. It feels real. And I was in that bedroom, of his painting, and then went out his window, and then going through the location that all this took place in, and it was absolutely fabulous. So once you've been through that experience, I think when you see things on a movie screen that's flatter, 2D, doesn't have the effect that I had when I did that. I also put on the glasses, and what was it? Oh, it was I had that at home, and they had a different scene there. But just going through his painting in 3D, around you, it's so phenomenal. I think when I saw this, I'm like, I kind of lost it because 20 years had passed, and things have gotten so much better in that. As far as the dream world goes, I guess now, taking away the fact that she's going into the supposed mind of a serial killer, and his mind is supposed to be so deranged, and she's supposedly sort of meeting him in this dream world where they're now both actors in the dream world with each other, and it's like a lucid dreaming scenario. But I actually am a lucid dreamer, so I understand what that sort of feeling is, to be lucid and know you're dreaming and experiencing things in a way that's different from normal dreaming. And so, to me, when I saw them in this what looked like lucid dreaming to me, but connected, I found, although dreams are odd to some extent, I guarantee you that's not what happens in the mind in the dream world of a serial killer.
I am completely in agreement.
Yeah, it was so overdone and so outrageous and ridiculous. And one of the concepts people have with serial killers is that they always have this almost psychotic mind. And so therefore, everything they think is in these very bizarre scenarios. And I don't believe that's true. I think a lot of the problems with psychopaths is that they're dull. They're actually dull people. They have the less artistic stuff going on, and emotion and all of that. It's dulled down. And so therefore, I doubt they have any of that kind of thing at all. They might have sex in their dreams. That's true. And they might knock somebody off because that's something they like. But that this super fanciful stuff, I don't think is part of their nature. And I think that's just overdone in movies, because especially this one, where they wanted this to be this super creepy thing. Like this poor woman now, she's in his mind, John Douglas would like it because he likes the concept of melding with the mind of a serial killer, which is nonsense. But now she's melded and she's in there, and then she starts trying to help him as a little boy, I guess it is. And goes into this very stupid scenario about how he got to where he was.
Yeah, the change.
Yeah.
But I will say I agree with everything you say, actually, and let's just say the whole movie is bogus. But I think the reason for making the movie was to make the director had some excuse for making that scenery, because that was the whole point, was to make the scenery. And I think the whole premise is just so outrageous, bogus, and the acting is so bad. But the idea of having a film that shows the inside of the mind, I always like that. And even though this is completely, it's not realistic in terms of what a psychopath would actually be thinking. It's just pretend something like a painting for me that I enjoyed. It's the same way as if it was around the same years when Matrix, the science fiction movie Matrix, I was blown away by it. It changed my life completely. Right. Okay. And it's so unrealistic, in every but the filming and the scenery was so it just blew me away. And Vanilla Sky, even though I hate Tom Cruise, I said it there.
Oh, Lord,
but
that was horrible.
but that, because that's more like a realistic vision. But there was some, how he blended the dreams when he
Right.
was in this, with reality, because it was something he has seen, so he captured it in his dreams.
Yeah,
That's why I
sure.
liked.
Uh,
That's why I liked the
and that's why I
cell, is
hated it,
because of
because
that
I know
scene.
that's not the way it works, and it bothered me a great deal because of that. And here's something else that bothered me. Um, the whole concept, of course, is he was going to tell her where the girl was. Of course, that isn't how it was solved anyway. It was actually solved by a police officer. But but the other thing that was just crazy to me was that, hold on, are you hearing a weird sound over here? Something seems to be tick-tocking here. I'm just trying to figure out what that is. Something.
There is something, yeah.
I heard something go hitting on something, and I'm trying to stop that. The concept of the movie so here's what happens in the movie for those who haven't seen it. So this guy kidnaps women, and then he takes them to this special location where he has built this incredible structure underground. I believe it's underground. And he's got a big, huge glass cage, essentially, and he puts the girl in, and it's got a bed in there, and it's got food and a toilet, I think. And so what happens is she's able to stay. He has a time frame. I love how they always have time frames in these stupid movies.
Yeah.
So it's like I forgot what it was, 78 hours or something. So from the time she arrives to the time she dies, it's like 78 hours. And she's supposed to have these moments of hope that she's going to escape it. She's not going to. And she gets to go to the bathroom and eat food, but then at times the container thing is flooded, and it gets higher and higher. And eventually it's so high, she's swimming around there. It's obviously going to drown because she can't get out. So that's the whole thing. And then after that, supposedly, he likes bodies that are like devoid of any color, say like bleached out. That thrills him.
Like dolls.
Like doll. Oh yeah. Oh, the stupid doll thing. Oh my God, the stupid doll thing. Yeah. and he also likes to hang above their bodies on these. He's got these metal implants that he can hang above the bodies. Again, something is so stupid I don't even know where that comes from. But the doll thing, the concept that he's making all these dolls. I mean, I don't know where they just put all this crap together in one movie, but the one thing that really struck me in all of this was the guy, the way they're showing him is so incredibly insane. He's not just psychopathic. That dude is like nuts off, he's like super psychotic, right? He can't function properly. He's doing all kinds of, does all kinds of such weird things. Like, you're really not going to have the money to build that bunker. Where'd you get the money to build that? That would cost a fortune. and you wouldn't be able to function as well as you did outside of there if that were your craziness. If we look back to, who am I thinking of? Okay, who's the guy with the leather? I'm sorry, I'm blanking. The leather lampshades and all that crap. The real guy that wasn't Norman, not Norman Bates, but the guy he's based on. Somebody help me out.
It could be
somebody in the chat room.
You're thinking of Ed Gein, or you're thinking of fictional?
Thank you, Ed Gein. That guy was weird, okay, and he was just weird in his own lone little sphere of weird. But he also didn't require much to do what he did. You see, so that's much more realistic. Ed Gein he's a real person, but that's the way somebody who's really off like that would act. They're not going to act like Buffalo Bill. They're not going to act like this guy. So it's just so exaggerated. It always requires so incredible much money. Like, are these all independently wealthy serial killers?
But don't you think, from an entertainment viewpoint, that it still works? Just like Silence of the Lambs, if you ask me what the best thriller, I think that is Silence of the Lambs, and I know it's completely unrealistic. Every portray of that is completely unrealistic, but it works to build up the excitement, to build up the suspense, to build up the thrill, because it doesn't matter if it's completely unrealistic, and every situation is unrealistic because it
I
works.
Get that. I just, as a profiler, I just hated that movie. I'm rolling my eyes through the whole movie, going, "Fire that girl! Fire Jodie Foster!" Because she's going, I'm like, if you can't be an objective profiler, and you're all emotional and get all bent out of shape and taken in, You don't need to be on the job. And first of all, you're barely even a trainee on that job. What the heck are you even put in that position? So the whole thing drove me nuts from one end to the other. Just had the nonsense of the style of killing and the brilliance and all that. But I understand your point about entertainment. I wasn't entertained, but many people were.
I was.
Therefore,
I thought it was brilliant.
that's probably why a lot of times, nope. Oh, now it says my battery's like, hold on a second. Hold on, guys. Oh, hold on 1 second. Oh, if I go away, I'm coming back with part 2 of this. I just got to find the battery thing in here. Hold on. I got to run away. Hold on a second. Help. I moved the, shoot, where is it? Are you still there? Is everybody still there? Oh, somebody there.
I'm here.
I can't figure out where oh, here it is. I found the battery cord.
And hear you.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Hi there, everybody. How's your colon doing? Well, I moved it to another room, the computer, and when I did that, I unplugged it, and consequently, it said your battery's low. And you know when they tell you that now, your battery's low, it's not like it's low and going to go away in 30 minutes. They mean like 30 seconds. It's could you give me a better warning? Now let me check here if anybody has a. Let me look at some comments before we'll leave the cell alone. It's like my comment to you was after I watched that movie, I only had one cell left in my brain. So
and I'll take a sip of my Jack Daniels.
Lisa S says, yes, Peter Madsen case, Benny, would love to hear your take on it. That is a fascinating story, and I haven't gotten to it yet. So yes. Martin says, I lasted 20 minutes of Vanilla Sky. Oh, is that dreadful? Just who was behind Vanilla Sky?
I don't know the director, but it was Tom Cruise.
I remember Tom Cruise in it. It was awful. It was just absolutely awful. So let's go into something that was less awful. Let's go to the Talented Mr. Ripley. Now,
something we can agree on,
I think we can. Talented Mr. Ripley, there's 2 major versions. Actually, there's more versions I found out, but there are 2 major versions. And the one almost everybody has seen it, who has seen it, is the one with Matt Damon in it. And also Jude Law, who's worth looking at, let me tell you. And Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Blanchett, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's a great actor. Okay, so those are the folks in there. The Talented Mr. Ripley is a 1999 American psychological thriller, written and directed by Anthony, I can't pronounce his name, Minghella, and based on Patricia Highsmith's 1955 novel of the same name. I haven't read the novel, and there's the 2 versions we're going to talk about here is the Talented Mr. Ripley and the French version, which is called Purple Noon. And it is claimed by the author that the Talented Mr. Ripley is closer to what she wanted, which is interesting to me because I like the other one better. But the plot, what is the plot? In 1958, Tom Ripley is approached by shipping magnate Herbert Greenleaf, who believes that Ripley attended Princeton with his son, Dickie, because Ripley wears a borrowed Princeton jacket. Greenleaf pays Ripley to travel to Italy, where Dickie has settled, to persuade him to return to the United States. And so he sends him over there to just try to hang out with him and pay his way. And Dickie, Ripley is not very well off. And in both the film versions, he's just not rich. Let's put it that way, not rich, and has really no hope of becoming rich. I was a little concerned in the Talented Mr. Ripley thing that he played the piano so incredibly well that I found that giving him way too much. We're talking about a psychopath. A lot of when they're total losers, it isn't usually that they could practice piano to that level. What do you think about that?
That was the one point I had trouble with because. I'll get to that. Yeah.
Okay. Shall I just give the basics, and I'll let you talk? Let me just tell them what happened, because somebody has no clue what this is.
Yeah, so, you just.
So now they're in Italy, and Dickie's there with his girlfriend Marge. They have a boat. They have this cute little house in Italy, and so Dickie gloms onto him like, hey, we went to Princeton or whatever, and so they become friends. A group of 3. but Dickie is kind of a rude little creature. He's kind of a mean guy. Is like they're very careless people, as written by Hemingway in his book. So they're very careless people, and they just do whatever they want to do because they have so much money. They can do it. They can have fun. They have no great meaning in life, and yet so they take this kid in and almost like, in a sense, mock him a lot. But he hangs in because he wants to have their life to some extent. And so time goes on, and Ripley ends up killing Dickie while they're on the boat because basically Dickie's about to dump him. He's had enough of him and he's not interested in him anymore. So that's the claim. So Ripley kills him off. And then he impersonates him, and he's a good impersonator because he's a con artist. So he impersonates him, and he starts signing checks to himself, and he pretends he's the guy. And then one of Dickie's friends finds out, and he kills him too. And so the whole question of this story, I'm not going to tell you the total ending of it, but I've told you most of it, so you ruined it for everybody. But the issue in the movie is, what is his motivation? What is Ripley's motivation? Does he represent a psychopath con man well? What is his motivation? And how would he do what he does and get away with it? What are the standout points? And Purple Noon is the French version with Alain Delon. Is that his name?
Oh. That handsome gentleman.
Oh, you really? I keep saying he's a handsome gentleman, which I'm not going to argue. Okay, wait a minute. I got to put a picture up. All right, wait a minute. I forgot I have pictures here. I did throw some pictures up here just so I could. Oh, so wait a minute. All right, hold on. Let me see. I didn't even get to put my pictures up for the cell. I meant to do that, and I was distracted. But here's some pictures. Here's what he looked like that's one of his personas in the cell. And then they had these beautiful things like that, which I guess I've been in Egypt, didn't work for me. But anyway, there she is acting in some form that makes no sense story-wise. Now he's being creepy. And there he is being more creepy and in an outfit. And it's hard to say too much nicer. Okay, so now let's go to these two movies. That's a cell main movie picture. And let's see now. Hold on. My glasses are fogging up and I can't see anything. Hold on. All right. I want to get the pictures of the two movies. The two movies are. That's not it. I want. Where'd it go? Oh, for God's sakes, where'd it go? What the heck? Hold on. It's gone missing on me. I hate it when these things go missing. Where's my Mr. Ripley pictures? How did that happen? I have taken pictures of they didn't come over for some reason. Let's see where they are. So I can show
I can tell you why you're finding it. That I never watched the Purple Noon, the 1960 movie, because I was trying to find a way to watch it, but I couldn't. It wasn't on Blockbuster. It wasn't on any streaming channel except Amazon. But the Danish Amazon.
You had to pay
wasn't
for
it. On. Yeah. But I wanted to rent it, to buy it or whatever. But it was not on the Danish Amazon. It was only on the American Amazon.
Yeah, there is a difference between them. I've had that problem too, and it's very frustrating because then I've tried to be sneaky and I've tried to put on, my block that nobody knows where I'm coming from. But then when I got there, they go, "You don't have Amazon in this country." So I'm like, "Ah, crap." So it doesn't work out. What happened here? Hold on a second. This picture doesn't want to come over. That's really odd. Why is that? I just sent it over again, and for some weird reason, I can't seem to get a picture of. All the other pictures are here, but not that one. That is so weird. Huh. Oh, here we go.
But people can just
found it. Okay. I felt better now.
Just imagine a character between.
There it is. The Talented Mr. Ripley.
And
that's the picture.
That's
the picture of that movie. I just want to put that one up first. And then this is Purple Noon, and that is the gentleman that's in Purple Noon. And okay, so let me here.
Yeah.
All right. He's got great eyes.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a mix of James Dean and Gregory
Yeah,
Peck, right?
he's a good-looking dude. And
He
I
is.
personally was more attracted to Jude Law in the American version.
He
So.
is a good-looking gentleman, also.
Right. What
And I
did you
say
think
that with
about the
respect
difference in the characters, as far as the way they just acted, just generally speaking? The way
I think
Matt Damon
I think
opposed to
this.
Alan Delane.
I okay. To be honest, I hate Matt Damon, but this movie,
Oh.
along with Interstellar, convinced me that he was. Also, he did some funny movies where he plays the Siamese twin, and I like that also. But other than that, I hate Matt Damon.
That's the wrong one.
So it had to be a really good movie to convince me he was a good actor, and he was a good actor.
Right, and there he is on the right, by the
actor,
way.
yeah.
There he is on the right with his glasses on, and that's then we have Jude Law, and then is it Gwyneth?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there he is, and that I thought he was a little goofy.
You know? I think that was on purpose. I think that is a part of his, let's say, part of a charm and like I don't know anything. I'm just here to learn. But that is a part of his.
I didn't find it charming, and I think that's what bothered me is because I found him. I understand the concept that he might have been playing down his abilities to do things and like, I'm just this, I don't know anything. I'm kind of innocent here. But he was also, he did that a lot when he wasn't with them too. So I think it was actually who he was. It seemed to me to just be a little too uncomfortable in himself and uncomfortable around other people to pull off. Now, this guy, that's him there. So he's kind of looking goofy. But if you look at this guy, he's looking more sexy. But anyway, the reason I like Alan Delane was because he was much more of a cool cucumber and much more cold, much more cold.
Yeah. But if you look at it this way, it works because actually the way he's portrayed in this movie with Matt Damon, with the goofiness, it is near impossible not to root for him because it's like you're thinking, it's like you're taking on his personal view, and you're rooting for him. You're hoping him to win. You want him to win. He gets our sympathies because he's a little goofy. He's like a little shy, and he's a little insecure. But he is not. Actually, that's the whole plot. He is not. He's just acting that way.
I don't think so. That's the thing. I don't actually think that's a total act. I think that's the problem. And he's got you fooled. No, I don't. No, but there's a homosexual aspect to this thing where he's very attracted to Jude Law. Yeah, he's very attracted to Jude Law, and he later on in the film is attracted to another man. And so one of the things they show in here is that this is where I think that goofiness and that comes in is they're trying to portray him as one who is damaged soul who can't find love. He wants to be with these rich people because he wants to be somebody, right? And by being with them, he's somebody, as long as they're paying attention to him and they're being his best friends. And then he gets this thing for Jude Law. He really is falling in love with him. And Jude Law then has gotten fed up with him because he is that goofy character. He wants him gone. And he kills him in a rage because he can't handle being rejected. But in the other movie, Purple Noon, Ripley doesn't kill Dickie in a rage because he's not loved. He kills him because he's in his way and he wants to get what he wants to get, which is the money. He wants to take over his life. He doesn't care whether the guy likes him or not. He could give a crap because that's a true psychopath. A true psychopath isn't falling in love with these people. And he isn't wanting to be liked. He's wanting to use people, and that's all he wants to do with them. So Purple Noon shows that perfectly.
That's actually how I see Ripley in this movie also, because he got you fooled. He got you fooled too.
He may have fooled, but they also showed him having all these emotions and wanting to be liked and loved, and that's not a con artist, con man.
No, I see it another way. Okay. And I had this talk with another guy because I said, well, from the first scene to the last scene, you don't know the first thing about him. And somebody said, he's repressing his homosexuality, and that's why, blah, blah, blah. I said, he is not a homosexual. But what the movie is portraying is he becomes whatever he needs to become in this situation. We don't know what his motivation is.
I don't believe that at all.
But we know.
That's not what a psychopath does. See, this is my point about doing these movies and trying to help people understand psychopathy. That's not the way they work. That's the problem with it, and that's why it bothers me. Yeah, it may work for the movie.
but
it's not.
It is a movie. It is a fictional story.
Purple Noon shows how a psychopath actually works. That where he ingratiates himself, he's very clever, but you can see what he's after is to take over, to replace these guys, to get his life, to eventually get him out of the way, take his money, take his girlfriend, take everything. He wants to have the life he can't have otherwise. But he's not looking for their attention. He's not looking for love. He's just looking. He's a thief. He's a thief. But that's not Ripley and Talent. That's not the Matt Damon character. He's not acting like that. He's desperate for
that's
love.
Actually how I see it.
Love.
That's actually how I saw it, and I see it maybe also a little different than other people, because like you said, like the point you bring up is the point that many people bring up when they see this movie. I say no. The director is letting us believe that he is conning them into believing that he's a homosexual or he is in love with this girl, Kate Blanchett, because they believe that he has an interest in her. We believe that he has an interest in Peter, the gay guy.
The last guy he really falls for and says, "Oh, the last guy. I finally found someone. I'm finally safe. I finally really found a charming, wonderful man I can love." And then, darn it, he finds out about me. So, darn it, I have to kill him. But it's so sad because I really loved him. That's what. And hey, by the way, that's what the author wrote. It's not the director. It is the author's. She believed that he was homosexual, and therefore he was attracted to these men and wanted to be their significant others. And that girl was just in his way. She was just in his way. So she didn't matter, but he wanted the attention of the men in this story. So it actually follows the book quite well. And people were upset with Purple Noon because they took the homosexual part out of it and made him a straight psychopathic con artist, which I totally agree with. And I think that the author fabricated her. Again, this is kind of like my problem with The Cell, in the sense that people who don't understand psychopathy tend to like to give them a richer emotional life than they actually have. They don't have that rich emotional life. They don't feel love like that. They don't. And people say they never got to be loved correctly. Well, that may be true, but now they don't know how to receive love, and they don't. Even when they marry, when you take a case of these, any one of the husbands who knocks off his wife and sometimes their children, and people say, I don't know how he could have done that. He looked like he loved them. Well, no, he didn't. He was using them.
No.
He was using them, and then when they became not useful, and he found another, maybe he wanted to go have a single life, like Jeffrey McDonald. He wanted to go out and have other women, not because he wanted to be loved by other women, but because he wanted to use other women, and he was getting bored with the one he was using. So that's the way a psychopath thinks. It's not this rich, internal, churning, and Matt Damon gets all, his eyes all tear up over the loss of the men in his life now. And I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. And when I saw Purple Noon, I was like, thank you. It's correct.
Yeah, okay. But I would say that I think when you say that the author says that he was homosexual, that actually that's a surprise to me, because I think that, well, it's just like you say, even though a psychopath can be have homosexual tendencies.
Absolutely, that's absolutely right?
So
that's
so
true. He can have homosexual desires, not necessarily
so he could
love. Love, not desires. That's different.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with I don't have a problem with Matt Damon being homosexual and that he wants to have this guy. I don't have a problem with that at all. My problem is that it was about love. Being loved was the problem in this story. That bothered me.
And I think there's a good point in the last scene where he actually kills Peter.
Right.
And he does, because he has a choice there. Either he will reveal who he really is to the girl, Kate Blanchett, or he have to kill Peter. Right. And if he really loved him, if he really had deep emotions for that guy, he would not kill him. He would come to his true color and say, I'm gonna go to England with this guy and live with him. I'm sorry, Kate Blanchett. It's not gonna be you and me. Sorry, my real name is not. But he didn't. He killed Peter. Why? Because he had to assume the identity that she was.
But they showed that But that's the point. I think they showed how much it hurt him to have to kill Peter. He had the emotions that he was devastated. He had to kill him because he loved him, but he couldn't. He knew he'd be arrested if he didn't kill him. So to save his own life, he killed the love of his life. That's where I disagree.
But it's up to, I would say it's up to interpretation, but I see your point. I would stand with my analysis that I think that I see it this way. I don't think that he has any real emotion from scene 1 to the end of the scene.
Really?
I think that's why it bothers me that
but he had little tears in his eyes after he killed them.
I didn't see
He looked so sad.
but maybe
look at that. Go back and look at the boat scene. He looked so devastated and so sad. He had to kill him again. The first one.
Well, actors can cry on demand. I can do that. If my wife asked me if I did the dishes, I can tell her that I hit my arm and I can pretend to cry. And I can do the dishes.
Hey, all you have to do is watch a Bollywood movie. Watch Shah Rukh Khan in a Bollywood movie. That guy can cry like you wouldn't believe. He's one of the best criers I've ever seen in the theater. He's amazing. But I don't know about Matt Damon.
Oh no! But apart from that, we can agree on things that it's a wonderful way of viewing a movie through the eyes of the psychopath instead of viewing it as a spectator, because we are actually going through the situation and we are rooting for him, and he's not charming like James Bond.
Rooting for? Why are you rooting for?
Well, because we are putting in the place of him that like he has to do all these things to accomplish things.
No,
I was.
Well, we may have to get some therapy for you now, Benny. I mean, you should be rooting for a psychopath who's ripping off everybody.
My therapist is just beside me, Jagged Edge.
But I will agree with you one thing on that. Oh, more than one thing, but I do think both movies are very interesting because it's true. You're seeing it as they're going through the process, and that psychopath is entering the lives of other people. And then you see how he's manipulating them, the things he's doing to get what he wants to get, and the choices he has to make, and the things he's got to do when he's backed up against a wall. I think all of that's very, very interesting. I want to point out one thing. Mr. Ripley was not a serial killer. He did kill 2 people. Yeah. Only 2? 3. Yeah. Well, okay, wait a minute. The first one.
He killed Freddy
Mr. Ripley, Talented Mr. Ripley killed 3. But the Purple Noon only 2. So they added that extra love interest for the other one. But he was not a serial killer, and people confuse this because the concept of a serial killer is you kill more than one with a downtime in between. That to me is now it's down to 2. FBI finally agreed to me it was 2 people to be a serial killer. I say it's actually just 1 because we just haven't figured out what else you did or what else you're going to do. But the point of a serial homicide is not just as you kill more than one person. It's the reason you're killing them and the methodology of which you're killing them. This was situational killings. With Mr. Ripley, he killed for situational reasons, not because he specifically loved the idea of killing. He wasn't. That's what a serial killer likes to do. A serial killer loves the power and control he gets the moment he kills somebody. You can add rape or not add rape. That doesn't matter. It's the power and control of the plan of killing somebody and then carrying it off like you're God, taking their life from them. That's not what Ripley was about. It was about, crap. This guy's getting in my way, and if I want to achieve what I want to achieve, I got to get rid of him. That's a situational killer, not a serial killer, even though offed a few people. So I thought, I don't know if he's misrepresented as being a serial killer or not, but I thought both were very watchable. I will say this too, though. I thought the Talented Mr. Ripley had a lot of extra junk in it that should have been edited out. It was way too many extra stuff happened that didn't need to happen. Too many places, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think Purple Noon was a lot more concise. So I found all together, I personally like the version of Purple Noon better, but I think you like Talented Mr. Ripley better. Am I correct?
Yeah, but I haven't watched Purple Noon because I wasn't able to, so that's why.
You're gonna have to go back and find that one. Yes, you will. Let me see. Hold on 1 second now. Let's see. I don't want to see if they call him a serial killer, but I don't see that. Yeah. Now also, I want to check in with our people in the chat room here who've been listening. See if they. I don't know how many. Oh, anyhow, it says I have not seen these movies. Well, you got something to watch now. Wait a minute. Lisa says Vanilla Sky is a 2001 American romantic. Oh, that's romantic. Okay. Science fiction psychological thriller film directed, written, and co-produced by Cameron Crowe. Oh, interesting. I did not know that's who did that torture thing. Let's say Jude Law's hot stuff. Okay, we'll go there. I will go there. This S says, so a psychopath doesn't just assume an identity to get what he wants. I'm not sure what you mean by that. A psychopath will often assume an identity, claim he's somebody he's not, in order to get what he wants. As a matter of fact, that's what they do most of the time. That's why there's guys who will say, I'm in the CIA when they're not in the CIA. That's why they'll say they're rich when they're not rich. They'll lie like a dog in order to get whatever they want. This is a more lengthy takeover. In other words, this person wanted to be able to move into the upper class and have all the money and all the fancy living that he didn't have and didn't have a way to get. So he wanted to assume the identity. He basically stole someone's identity so he'd have all the money that he had, and then even pretended that he was him, and so he could rent fancy hotel rooms and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a difficult role to play. It's interesting to see how he goes back and forth trying to get away with it too, and how that's what's interesting about the movie too, aside from the psychopathy. It's just all the machinations that he goes through to keep that identity. When people, oh, you're so and so, yes, I'm so and so, and he's got to do all these things because he's to not get found out, which is I think is kind of fascinating. Jeffrey Dahmer was homosexual, wasn't he? Well, yeah. I mean, homosexuality has absolutely nothing to do with crime outside of maybe the choice of your victims. So let's say you're going to be a serial killer and you would like to include some sexual component. Well, some people don't care what sex the victim is. They'll have a sexual component on whoever it is. But some have a preference for their sexual component. So usually heterosexuals will pick a heterosexual sexual component and homosexuals pick a homosexual sexual component. That's all. It's just, if you're going to kill somebody, you might as well kill somebody you're attracted to have sex with. I mean, it just seems useful, Let's see. Anna says, Pat, is psychopathy a dimension from low to high trait and or from low to high functioning in terms of life success? That's a tricky one, Anna. Psychopathy itself, there's like a continuum of narcissism, and psychopathy is at the very end of that continuum. And when you get to be a level of a psychopath where you have all the traits of a psychopath, you might, like if you go through a psychopathy checklist and you go check. I would say it all depends on your upbringing, first of all. It depends what world you're born into, so what skills you might have. So if you're born into a world where you have education and money and got enough of that, then you may take your skills to dupe people in a different way. You might become some kind of con artist. You might get into Wall Street. You might become a politician. And there's pastor con artists too, because they can manipulate a crowd like Jim Jones. Then you get psychopaths who can manage a basic regular life, but have a desire to be, like, for example, serial killers, and they're smart enough to do a lot more planning than a guy who's just not all as good at managing life in general. You get so those kind are the kind that keep losing their jobs. The girlfriends dump them really quick. They don't have their tags on their car are always dead. They just don't keep up with stuff. When you meet them, they seem normal, at least for a while. But they usually have low-level jobs. When I say low-level, I mean jobs that don't require a high level of education or experience, because they can get them quickly, and they can get fired and then get another job quickly. They often live with relatives because they just don't have money for rent, that kind of thing. And sometimes they'll find a woman who will marry them, and then they have a place to live. And they'll commit serial homicides. Are not as fanciful usually as the higher level ones. Have more money and more skills, and I call serial killers in two groups. I call them fast and slow. Usually the guys that are not doing as well in life do the fast kind, because they don't have the ability to plan everything and have a basement they can keep their the victim in, or they just don't have all that ability. So then you got your slow guys who are the ones who have a home and they built them a nice little fortress in there, and then they kidnap somebody and keep them for a while and torture them. Yeah, that person has a little bit more stability in their lives. So there's not an absolute. So sometimes people want to have all these boxes, and I don't think you can have that many boxes. Lisa N says, I agree with Pat. It might be hard for writers to create a psychopath. And sometimes they're too boring when they do, so they don't want the boring psychopath. They might be worried that audience would see them as cartoon characters and not realistic. So they bring in more emotions. That's very true. If the portraying a psychopath with much more fanciful stuff and fanciful emotions and clever things that they do sells books and sells movies. I mean, it's very hard to have a very bland psychopath if you want to make money. That's a little tough. So I think that is correct. And Aisha says, I think writers portray psychopaths as interesting or sexy or complex or enigmatic in fiction because they realize after research, that for real psychopaths are uninteresting, boring, and mundane. Yeah, that's generally speaking true. I'm not saying there's not some serial killers who are interesting, for example, and not some psychopaths that are fascinating. There are. They're just not that many. And the emotion level is definitely like that with them because they just don't have that kind of emotional attachment to things. They may like something, but not to that level. So let's go to Taxi Driver.
Yeah, let's go to Taxi Driver.
Yeah, let me tell people what Taxi Driver is. Let's see.
It's just the best movie ever made.
Not that Taxi Driver. There's Taxi Driver. So at least I got a picture of it this time. Do I have any other picture? Okay. And here he is in his taxi. And here's another one. This is Jodie Foster, who's playing a 12-year-old prostitute in the movie. Yeah, that's another version of it. Sybil Shepherd is in there as the girl he likes, and that turns out not so well. I'll get to that in a minute. But okay, Taxi Driver. Let me just tell people what it is in case they haven't seen it. And it is a really well done film. So Benny and I are on the same page. Taxi Driver is a 1976 American film directed by Martin Scorsese, written by Paul Schrader and starring Robert De Niro. And it's funny, I've seen Robert De Niro so much recently that I didn't recognize him in the role. Yeah, because I'm like,
it looks quite different.
Oh my God, I'm like, oh, that's Robert De Niro, because I've forgotten what he used to look like. I've forgotten what I used to look like. So there you go. Jodie Foster, Sybil Shepherd. Sybil Shepherd still looks like Sybil Shepherd to me. She always did. Harvey Keitel.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah. Peter Boyle, Leonard Harris, and Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks was in there. Pretty cool. Set in a decaying and morally bankrupt New York City following the Vietnam War, the film follows Travis Bickle. That's what De Niro plays. A veteran. I'm going to have a little bit of a point on that. Working as a taxi driver and his deteriorating mental state as he works nights in the city. And I'll have a comment on that too. So anyway, what he does is the plot here. He's 26 years old, honorably discharged. I got to say right up front, I think he's lying like a dog. I think he was dishonorably discharged. Or sometimes when the military has a psycho in there, they want to get rid of them. This is very true because I've run into so many cases of this. They don't want to have a big issue. They just want to get him out of there. So they'll try for a general discharge, but if that doesn't work, they'll just give him an honorable discharge just to get rid of him. But the problem is that guy walks through life with an honorable discharge, and he goes into a job interview and he has papers that says it was an honorable discharge, and they think that means he was an honorable soldier and did his everything was okay about him. And when sometimes when they find out that the military basically lied and just tried to get that psycho out of there and just gave him an honorable discharge to get rid of him, they're pretty pissed off. But he was supposedly a U.S. Marine and a Vietnam War veteran suffering from PTSD. I'm sorry, I didn't see that, but all right. Again, this is where you add in stuff. And living alone in New York City, Travis takes a job as a night shift taxi driver to cope with his chronic insomnia and loneliness. Well, one thing we see in the movie is that if you look at his behaviors, the reason he's chronically lonely is because he's creepy as hell. And so, yeah, it's hard to get a girlfriend. You're a creepy dude. Yeah, you agree with that. Okay. He frequently goes to porn theaters because he can't get any, which is located on 42nd Street, and keeps a diary in which he consciously attempts to include aphorisms. I don't even know the word aphorisms.
His thoughts.
Thank you. His thoughts as, quote, "You're only as healthy as you feel." All right. He becomes disgusted with the crime and urban decay that he witnesses in Manhattan. Oh, I could talk about that issue. What do you think? I went there. Okay, so I'm going to say he was not dishonorably discharged. Honorably discharged. I think he was dishonorably discharged. Couldn't keep it. And then he can't get work. So taxi driver was an easy job to get relatively. And especially if you're willing to take, in the beginning of the movie, that shows how they actually ask him basically, are you willing to work in the worst places at night? And he says yes, so they take him. So he's a loser, 100% loser. And he is working in an area which is depressing, very depressing, and full of prostitution, full of drugs, full of violence. It's just a nasty gutter location. And the question I would have for you, Benny, right here, before we go on about what he goes on to do you think this gave him motivations for what he did, or do you just think that he's using that as an excuse?
I could spend 4 hours just on every scene in this movie because I think it's not. I think Shutter Island is better, but I think this one is life changing for me because it was the first time, and that's the whole premise of this movie. Is we are only we only know what we are told from the view of Travis, and Travis thinks of himself as somebody who is normal, but the whole world is filthy and not fitting into what he perceives as normal. And he lies. We know that. We know he lies because he's writing to his mom and dad, and he's telling them a lot of bullshit. So a lot of false things. Mind my language. So when you say that he's the film starts off by him telling that he's an honorable discharge, that was my first thought. He's not honorable discharge. In his view of mine, he thinks that the army was wrong and got him discharged. So he is honorable discharged in his view, and the armor was wrong. So that's a good point. He has no skills. You can hear that he's not really good reader. He reads very slowly. He cannot spell organized, and so he has no skills. But he sees this differently. He sees this as he has these skills. He has a moral compass. He can see all this filth. But actually, if we zoom out, I think that the world would be beautiful and also filthy if we were to look at it. But he only sees the filth because, in his view, the world is skewed in the wrong way. Like when you went to Copenhagen, Pat, like if you only took pictures of the garbage bin and homeless people on the street and buildings falling up. No, but if you did that and you took only pictures of that, and you went back to the States and you showed your friends, here are the pictures from Copenhagen, it would actually be true. These are pictures. These are genuine pictures of Copenhagen, but it's only a 10% of the real world view. And I think we are offered a glimpse into a worldview of a psychopath with the 10% that he's seeing, and the 10% he needs to lie in every turn to get by, and that's why he ascends from. Well, he thinks he accomplished something by being a taxi driver. That's why he does it so much. But he's not really relating to anybody, not his co-workers. It's just chattering in the background. He takes Sybil Shepherd to the pawn shop because he thinks that's a normal thing, but he can't understand why she's appalled by it because he thinks it's normal.
Wait a minute, stop here a second. Okay. I want to point out a couple things. One, you made a great point that he doesn't have any skills. He also has no interest. Remember I said that a lot of the problem with psychopaths is they're not truly interested very much. Okay, they sometimes have a video game they like, a movie they'll watch 20,000 times over. How many times have you watched Taxi Driver? but
a couple of times.
They don't usually have a wide interest of things that they want to learn, that they want to try. And one of the things he says when he meets Sybil Shepherd, as she mentions music, he said, I don't want to really listen to it. Well, he didn't. He didn't have interest in that. He didn't have interest in pretty much anything. That's a psychopathic trait. Another thing about the way he looks at where he's at, one of the reasons a psychopath, and a lot of times what people mistakenly think is there was this FBI groupings. They had 4 groups, and one of them was mission oriented. This is for serial killers. One was mission oriented, and that was usually where you kill prostitutes to clean up the world. This guy comes off later on in the movie as being mission oriented because he's in this terrible environment and he sees it as a disgusting environment. Now, mind you, it is a disgusting environment. He's not wrong on that. Mm-hmm. But the most important reason he sees this and focuses on it so much is that's the only way he can raise himself up above other people because he's such a loser that you got to have worse losers to feel decent about yourself. So if
that
you
is one of my notes.
It was okay. There we go. So he sees all see that guy's a pimp. That's a prostitute. That's a drug dealer. That's a thug. That's a this. That's a that. I'm not one of those. I have to suffer by doing my job to have to deal with all these people because I'm better than them and their dirt and filth is around me and I have to plow through this and suffer through this because I'm not one of them. So that's a very psychopathic point of view.
I agree totally on everything you said. I'm amazed that we have the same view.
We made diverse
subtle things. Yeah, we made. I would say also there's one thing that is essential to there's one scene that was much talked about, and I read a lot about it. And I kind of agree on this. There's a scene where after Betsy.
Wait. Well, let's go to Betsy first. Can you hold that thought 1 second?
Yep.
Just so people know what's going on here. So now, what he does is he sees this. He's driving by this political place, and he sees Sybil Shepherd. Where's Sybil? I'll throw up a picture of her in this. Okay, where'd she go now? Mm-hmm, okay, is that her? There. Okay, that's Sybil Shepherd. And I'll get to that. We'll get to that scene in a bit. But he looks into this political place. It's got a glass window so he can see in, and he sees this. Actually, they show her walking in. They show her walking in with a white coat, so it's the virginal concept. So he sees this beautiful woman, an angel, yes, and he keeps staring through the window, and she gets creeped out one day and sends one of her fellow workers out to get rid of him. And but one day he comes pushing his way back in, and he says, "Hey, I see you in here, and I think you're lonely, and all this stuff." I don't know how the hell she wasn't creeped out right there and then, but she agrees to go and have a little coffee with him. And he's even creepy during the coffee. But one of the things, he's not a bad looking dude. So, I mean, he's not an unattractive guy. And he has his moments of being, good looking. And he's different to her. She's one of these people I think is just trying to give him a chance. And okay, I shouldn't be, just say, oh, he's a taxi driver, so I have no interest. I'll give him a chance. He might be a different kind of person. I could learn something from him. Maybe I'll like him. And even though he says things to me, which would make me right then get up and walk out the door, she didn't. She hangs in and she goes on a date with him, which you pointed out. Where did he take her on that date? His first date with her.
Yeah, it was a porn movie or dirty movie.
Yes, there they are.
Which was completely normal for him, but she was appalled, of course, any normal person would be, but for him it would be a normal thing. And also, why would she date a stalker, right?
Well, she didn't know he was a stalker then.
But
yes, she did. You're right.
The building.
He was already, it was already creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good question. I think that's a little bit of but the thing about the movie to me is that he has so little perception of how another person thinks. This is a very psychopathic thing. One of my favorite lines from a psychopath is this. Psychopaths often, so let's say they're dating somebody, and they talk to a friend, say, well, I'm dating this girl, and they go, oh, you're going to get married? Well, yeah, so, okay, that'll be cool one day, and so the next day he sees the girl and goes, want to get married? Well, we've been seeing each other for 2 weeks. No. But he doesn't see it from their point of view, that's weird. Because if he just wants something, he just thinks that's okay. He doesn't think of what does she need. Now, some higher level psychopaths, in the sense that, again, more educated, have more success in life, they can be more sneaky and decide what they'll learn a pattern of how to approach women. Sometimes they have to actually learn a pattern. They'll try things and they'll fail. And when a woman says, for example, let's say a psychopath, let's say this movie thing. If he takes the girl to a porn movie And she is appalled. She's in there going, what the hell? I don't know why she walked in the door with him, but I think she was thinking that maybe it wasn't that bad until she got in there. It was just disgusting right away, and she just got up and left. But if he, from that behavior, if he asked another girl out, he would probably have learned not to take her to a porn movie. And he might say, he might ask a friend actually, what kind of movie should I take a girl to? And they would say, well, you should pick a romantic movie. How do I find a romantic movie? What you do is whatever. And then he takes her to a romantic movie, and now he's got a new way of dealing with women. But it's not because he understood them or saw things from a normal human point of view.
That is actually the plot of Groundhog Day.
Yes.
the comedy. Yeah, because he is not in touch with anybody, but he gets a chance to, redo it every day. So he learns that this is not working, but this is working. This is not working to accomplish get this.
A little concerning about old Bill Murray.
Yeah. But that is actually what the psychopath would do, and this situation is really good to illustrate that point.
Yeah, I mean, they do learn, and that's why sometimes, but if you're the 20th person they've asked out on a date, they might have better methodologies than if you're the first person. I mean, we all, now to be fair, we all learn from our mistakes. So, and we do ask our friends, what do you think I should do? I mean, I got to take this girl for dinner. Where do you think I should take her for dinner? And they might say, don't go to the diner you always eat at, dude. Take her someplace nicer than that, So you it's not that you don't ask people to help you, it's to help understand, so you do the best thing. So again, it's one of these things where psychopaths aren't totally different from the rest of human beings. They're just more stunted to such a level that they have trouble getting over the level of being stunted, and that's why they don't act in a way that is what we would call relatively normal. So did you have, so he's got this girl, and she basically after that movie, she's done with him because she's creeped, and he knows he's not getting her back.
Yeah. And there's a point in the movie there when he's been rejected by her, which is something that Scorsese, I just realized because I read a lot about it, that his intent was to show a point here. When after she was rejecting him, you see a scene where he's talking on the phone, on a payphone, and he's all alone, and he's trying to apologize to her on the phone for taking to watch a dirty movie. So he wants to, establish a relationship with her, but she has rejected him. So when he is talking, the camera turns away from him, and it's scrolling down to an empty hallway, a void hallway, and this shot. Scorsese, he says, this shot tries to show us the anguish and despair that Travis is feeling by not actually showing us that how deeply hurt he is, because this is the one thing that matters to him is rejection. All the violent things.
See, I would stop right there. Wait a minute. Deeply hurt is not what his problem is. He's deeply angry. He's angry that he didn't get what he wanted. He wanted this pretty thing. The pretty thing dumped him. He's insulted and he's angry. He's not feeling the loss of the love of his life. That's his little fantasy.
The anguish and despair. I think he said Scorsese, and I think you're complete right, because he doesn't have real emotions. But it was said that it was meant to hide the rejection, because he couldn't deal with the rejection. It was too painful for him. That's why we were not allowed to see him in that scene, because we are viewing the whole movie from his point of view. So that's why we need to look away in this moment when he's feeling the most pain because he's rejected. He said that he wanted that scene to illustrate that. But all the other violent scenes we are allowed to see, and all. Well,
I don't think he's. Well, see, again, I don't know what they meant to do, but I would think, to me, that's not because of the pain of rejection. That's the humiliation that he doesn't want us to see. He was humiliated.
Yeah, humiliation. That was maybe a better word. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then it's not rejection, about
the
deep
humiliation.
Pain.
Yeah, it's a more fitting word. Yeah, but that is one scene that is really talked about a lot.
Right.
That one scene, I really didn't notice that the first time I saw it. But also, there's another point when the whole movie we hear the voice of him, when he's writing down his thoughts and when the point of view, right? And also, I just want to say the letter he received in the end, that is supposedly, allegedly written by the father of Iris, the girl, the 12-year-old Jodie Foster, but it's read in the same monotone and with the same difficulties of reading that Travis has. So it's actually him reading. It's actually in his mind, he's reading how it would sound like if her father was writing this
I think
letter.
people aren't going to know what you're talking about. Yeah, let's hold on the final scene and what that actually means. Let's go to the next basic thing, which he decides he's going to kill the candidate what's her face?
Palpatine.
What's her face? Give me your name.
Palpatine.
No, that's his name. No, Sybil Shepherd. Okay, Betsy.
No, yeah.
Betsy's dumped him, and she worked and she bragged about how great this Palpatine guy was, and he's running for president eventually or whatever. One thing I want to point out was that he doesn't have any interest in politics. That's, again, another thing he doesn't have interest in. And so a lot of times when psychopaths claim they have interest in politics, they don't. They're just taking a position for appearances. And so when she was there, he's like, then he still wants to help out there and he wants to wear the badge and everything. No, he doesn't give a crap one way or the other, and he knows nothing. But he's decided he's going to kill the guy because that will get her attention. And of course, this is the whole thing about John Hinckley shooting attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan because he wanted to get the attention of Jodie Foster in this movie, which is just such a bizarre, somebody copying a fictional thing. But that was the idea, that John Hinckley wanted to get the attention of Jodie Foster because Jodie Foster, like Betsy, didn't give him the time of day because he's a psycho. And he decided, well, if I do this big thing, well, it's kind of funny. Does it really get their attention, or is it more of a slap in the face to them? It's like, well, you didn't pay me any mind, so see what I did. I think it's more like a bad kid, you know what I mean? By the way, just to let you know about Hinckley, he is now out of prison. He has his, this is unbelievable. He has his own YouTube channel where he's got 6 times as many followers as me. Okay. And his concert, you see, is sold out. And by the way, I went to listen to his songs, and I'm like, seriously, the dude's not good. It doesn't write that well, and he doesn't sing that well. So he's really not good. But he's got 30,000 followers, subscribers to YouTube. But so, by the way, folks, in case you're watching this show right now, please do subscribe to my channel, like and subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications, join Patreon below, and you can be in a call-in or in a chat room. But don't go to John Hinckley's site and give him a subscription. Unbelievable. I was like, you got to be. And I mean, it'd be one thing if he was any good. He's not good. He's really terrible. I mean, it's just, I'm like, wow. I mean, and he thinks he's good because he has his own channel too, So, oh my gosh, unbelievable. But he did pattern himself after this movie. Yeah. And so our taxi driver, Travis, his intention is, this is where I want to point out the thing about, this part is more like a mass murderer's thinking, between a stalker and a mass murderer. So both of these guys were stalkers. Travis stalked Betsy, and what's his name? Hinckley stalked Jodie Foster, right? So they're both stalkers, and 2 things might have happened in this situation. One is that he would have killed Betsy as his last thing. Like, you turn me down. This has happened before with stars, people on YouTube, not hopefully never me, but somebody gets obsessed with somebody they see in the movies or on YouTube, and then they just go kill them. John Lennon is an example of that. Because when you kill that person, that famous person, first of all, just like you're better than those scummy people down there, now when you kill them, you now put yourself up above the person you killed. So you're better than John Lennon. If he killed Betsy, he'd be better than Betsy.
Well, he's still in jail.
And he's alive, So, but that stalker who kills does that because it gives them that moment of power, that thrill that they get in that moment And then it raises them above in their minds of the person they killed. And they get in the newspaper, they get their faces next to the person they killed, like like they're their lover or buddy, you know what I mean? Finally, they're together. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah.
So I would have, it would be more likely that he would have done that, killed Betsy. But he decided instead he's going to go after this Palatine, this politician, because he thought that would impress Betsy in the sense that, look what I actually did, and look what I did because of you. And to kill a politician, to assassinate somebody, makes him feel like a big wheel. So it's almost like mass murder, because he doesn't necessarily expect to survive that. A lot of times you end up dead when you do those kind of things, when you do the big assassination things. And mass murderers think the same way. They're like, I want my one moment in the sun. I want my attention in the newspaper. If I go in and kill a bunch of children in a school, I will be forever known as that mass murderer, and the news will have me on my face and name, which I've been objecting to for years. Stop doing that, media. And I'll be there. I'll be the most famous guy in the world for at least a long time. And that's what Travis would get out of this. If he shot that guy down, he'd finally be not that little loser taxi driver. He'd be the guy who killed Palatine, or Palatine, how you say his name. He would be a hero in his own mind and a famous person. And so, hey, it's like a mass murderer. It's not like a serial killer. It's like a mass murderer. And so then he goes out with the intention of having his day in the sun. So I'll stop there because I won't get to the last part, which I object to. I think after that, he tries to kill him, and he fails because he's identified by a guy he shouldn't have talked up, one of the Secret Service agents. He talked him up, and so the guy recognized him, and he lost his chance to kill. And I think right to there, I was totally on board. I wasn't on board with what happened after that. I thought it was completely wrong in the psychology of it all. I thought that was just shouldn't have happened the way it happened. And I'll tell you why, but I'm going to let you carry on from here. So,
Then, okay. Then I might change your view there because.
Really?
Okay.
Think so? I'm very stubborn, Benny.
Right.
You know this, right?
I know. Well, let's say with some good reasoning here, but I think that we have to talk about the point of change in Travis. When he becomes from hero to zero, that's the point of change is the taxi scene where actually Martin Scorsese is
he the guy in the back?
He's the guy in the back, and he says, the dialogue is really interesting because this is where the whole movie changes. This is where it's like a cut in the movie where everything goes completely different.
Which is why I think it went completely wrong, but okay.
Yeah, but no, I think there's a reason for it. I think there's a good reason for it. Okay, so he's, Martin Scorsese is sitting there in the back, and he says, you see that girl up there? That's my wife, but that's not my apartment,
right.
And she's with some black guy, and he says this to Travis, but Travis doesn't answer any of his questions, but he says, I'm going to kill her. What do you think of that?
Mm-hmm.
But Travis doesn't say anything, but he's like he's turning his head like, now I'm listening.
Right.
So he thinks this because the Martin Scorsese says, I want to kill her with a 44 Magnum. Mm-hmm. That's the same pistol that Travis is buying later.
No, he bought four, but I don't know. He had a lot of money. About 4 of them.
Yeah, he bought them all. Yeah, which also is telling that he has no skills and no view. He doesn't know anything about guns, so he just buys
everything.
Doesn't know.
See which one works.
So, but Scorsese is telling in vivid details what a gunshot from a 44 Magnum will do to a woman's face and other body parts, and this is really intriguing to Travis. Now he turns his head and becomes fascinated with what he's saying. But then the man in the back says, you must think I'm pretty sick. You must think I'm pretty sick. But he doesn't answer that because actually, this is the first time he feels this is something I can relate to. This is
right.
This is something.
This guy gets me. He gets me.
Yeah, this guy gets me. I think that is the turning point because after that, we are seeing still from the viewpoint of Travis. He gets organized, he gets fit, he gets mohawk hair, he gets guns, knives, and he's talking to the mirror. He becomes the hero. But that is, of course, a delusion. So in reality, I don't think, if we were a spectator and we saw him, he didn't change his hair. He didn't become that hero. But he thinks in his mind now, the movie's betraying like. Here he has a purpose. He wants to know. He got a purpose of. He got a mission. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to accomplish somebody. I'm above this scum, and I'm going to show them. So he's becoming this hero in his own mind. Okay. So I don't even think that all the things that comes after that. I don't think that he killed the pimp. I don't think that he killed the man, and I don't think he freed Iris. Iris didn't even wanted to be
interesting, Benny.
Free. No, I don't. I think that he killed somebody that was like just a representation of the filth. But in his mind, this was what he did. He became that Mohawk guy, who had all these skills with guns and knives, and he would do this fantastic thing to not to free Iris, but to be somebody, to prove I am somebody, I'm above you. But then the last scene comes, which is really interesting because.
By the way, I did not actually see it that way, but I like it. I like it, Benny. I like it a lot. It's hard to get me to like things, Benny. So
a thousand meanings of that, but that's my own interpretation.
That's a great interpretation. It's actually I'm going to talk about why I think it's a really good interpretation in a bit, because I did not have that interpretation, but I like it.
Okay, but that brings us to the last scene, because that is why I think that it was that way, because the last scene. Okay. Now I'm talking like a movie buff.
Okay, wait, but before we go there, let me just read to the people what it says happens, just so you can get this, because otherwise you won't understand where Benny's going with this. That evening, so after he fails, and then he's like you say, got himself all together here. That evening, Travis drives to the brothel where Iris works. That's the 12-year-old girl. And by the way, I want to point out just something. This is just a personal thing for me. I went, where's that picture? Where's that picture? Okay, here she is. He meets with her, pays for her time, and she takes him upstairs to have sex with him, and he doesn't want to have sex with her because he thinks he's a hero, like you say. And he's going to save her from this tawdry world. So now they're having breakfast together, and he's trying to convince her to go home, and she's like, "Why do you think I ran away?" And two things happen in this movie, which I think are just brilliant, and not from the point of view of the psychopath there, but when she's describing, she is like talking to him about her life and why she's doing what she's doing. That is a way a lot of prostitutes who've run away from home talk like. I mean, that's I don't know who they interviewed to get that so correctly. It gave me shivers, because because girls who have been runaways and they're underage, they get toughened up real quick, and they have a way of speaking which is shocking to people who are older, who think, "Oh my God, this can't be a kid who's that age. They can't be like this." Well, they are like this because they've become part of that world to such an extent that they live and breathe it. And one of the things they also show is her pimp. She goes up. He's trying to convince her, you don't want to leave, and he's telling her how much he loves her, how he can't be without her, and he needs her to help him. And then he holds her and he dances with her. And oh my God, that is so absolutely true in a lot of these circumstances where young girls, they're taken in by a male who pretends to be their boyfriend. They have sex with them and all that, but that gets to be their boyfriend. They become emotionally attached to their pimp. And that pimp can convince them to do things as if those things that they're doing are just part of business. It's not a big deal. It's the way we do things, and I still love you. And we make love over here. It's just sex. We make love. That's work. And that whole scene between her, the pimp, and what she says to Travis while she's sitting at the table is stuff that actually is that way. And so when you look, people talk about sex trafficking all the time and think kids are kidnapped off the streets, and no, this is how it works. She runs away from home. She gets off of a Greyhound bus, and there's a pimp waiting for her, takes her into his home, gives her a place to stay, becomes her boyfriend, and then pimps her out. And she gets used to the rough life, but the rough life for her, as she's telling Travis, is she's okay with that. She doesn't want to go home. She's okay with the life she leads. And it's shocking to people, but it's actually very accurate. And I just want to bring that up because I think it's incredibly, whoever wrote that was right on the money there. It's creepy as hell, but it's right on the money. So anyway, Iris has her pimp is called Sport. He enters the building and engages in a shootout. So he drives to the brothel where Iris works and shoots her pimp Sport on the outside of the building. He enters the building and engages in a shootout with Sport and one of Iris's clients, a mafioso. Travis is shot several times but manages to kill the two men. He then brawls with a bouncer whom he manages to stab through the hand with his knife located in his shoe and finish him off with a gunshot to the head. Travis attempts to commit suicide but is out of bullets. Bloody and injured, he slumps on the couch next to a sobbing Iris. As police respond to the scene, a delirious Travis imitates shooting himself in the head using his finger. Travis goes into a coma due to his injuries. He is heralded by the press as a heroic vigilante and is not prosecuted for the murders, also receiving a letter from Iris's father thanking him. After recovering, Travis returns to work where he encounters Betsy as a fare. They interact cordially, with Betsy saying she followed a story in the newspapers. Travis drops her at home and declines to take her money, driving off with a smile. He suddenly becomes agitated after noticing something in his rearview mirror, and that's the end of the movie. Okay, so go for it, Benny. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, so did you notice the scene where you know, at the end of his heroics, where he's wearing his army jacket with the mocha hair and his guns? It's like he's saying, dishonorable discharge. What do you mean? I'm the hero. I'm the hero, right? So it's like we want to get.
One wonders what he did when he was in the army. Wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah.
What did he do in the army?
Because we don't know anything about him. That's just like Mr. Ripley. We don't know anything about his background. We just know that he's alive. We don't even know if he was in the military.
Right.
Well, okay,
that's true.
The last scene. And now I might sound like a movie buff because this is I'm very
Not
detailed
you.
here because this is one of the most discussed scenes in all the film history. It's actually the last scene where he's driving the cab. We see that this last scene is driving the cab. It's very similar, almost identical to the opening scene where we see him driving the taxi from one side, hearing the smooth saxophone music, and then we see his eyeballs in the opening scene.
Right.
We see his eyeballs. And then the movie starts. In the last scene, it looks identical to the start of the movie. No mohawk hair, no bruises after the injuries to the body. Betsy is looking like an angel.
Right.
And after dropping off Betsy, we see the taxi from the side again. We're hearing the same smooth saxophone music. And then Travis catches the glimpse of his own eyes in the rear view for a second, just like in the beginning. But then he sees his own reflection, and we see a glitch, just like a piece of broken film, where he looks away from his own eyes immediately, appalled by it. And in the moment, we're a full circle back to the beginning. He is now a time bomb. He's seeing the world as he sees it, in need of his heroics again. He realizes in that brief moment he is nobody, but then he shakes his head, get out of that moment again, and then he realizes, I need to be that hero. I need to be that hero. And then he goes out for another mission, another purpose in life to become that hero again. I think that is what it's portraying, that whatever we saw from the time in the conversation from the taxi, that none of this happened as it's portrayed. This is his view of his heroic. And then he's a time bomb again, because in the glimpse he sees, well, I did nothing. I did nothing.
I'm really not the hero.
Yeah. Wow. So he has to go on a mission again. So it's like he's repeating. I think it's on purpose that Scorsese is making completely the same scene in the beginning as in the end, and it's the same hairdo, it's without bruises, it's the same girl, it's all the same music. It's not a dramatic music or anything, but there's like like a broken film, like it's starting all over again.
Wait a minute, I have to read you something though. Where the heck is this? Because this. I think your thing is the best, and that it's odd that I don't think that's anybody else's thinking, but I think, when I said everything goes off the rails, it made no sense to me that he actually killed these people. I'm like, this is not what this guy does. A mass murder, for example, will only go into a place where nobody's armed and he's not in any danger. In other words, he doesn't like losing. They do not like to lose. So going into some place where you can get shot down right away and lose right before you even start, it's not what you choose to do. He's not really a tough guy in that sense. He only goes after things that he can easily take care of. So whether back in the theoretically, if he was in Vietnam, whether he was a deserter or whether he failed to save his fellow man, like he was with other soldiers and he did not do his own duty, and the other soldiers got killed because of him, because he failed to do it, put himself in danger. I wonder if that happened. But interesting, at the end of this movie, there's two arguments over the end of the movie. One argument is that he killed them all. He did that, but he died. And being a hero is just what, in his last moments of life, he envisions that after this point in time, I would never have been charged. The father would have written me a letter to say thank you, because now Iris has come back home, in spite of the fact she probably didn't. He imagines that he's done this wonderful thing and everybody's going to praise him. That in his dying moments, he believes this is what's going to happen. But he's dead. Yeah. And didn't happen. The other viewpoint is, and I thought it was according to Scorsese, that no, he didn't die, that this is exactly what happened. He killed these people. He did get honored because they didn't realize that they actually did honor him as doing something good. And so he actually did get to be a hero for that moment. But yet when he looks in the mirror, we realize that it's, even though he's had that heroic moment, he's still a danger. So that's the two that they claim as the end of the film. But I think yours is, I'm not saying they intended what you think, but I like what you think better than those other two choices, because I never felt it was right that he actually committed that killed all the pimps and stuff. It just didn't ring right to me. So I believe, yes.
Yeah, not in the way that it's portrayed. Yeah, but it's like it's showing that the last scene for me is like, if I put it in plain words, I would say it's impossible for Travis to escape from himself. If he wanted to change the world, he should at least get professional help, right, to understand himself. But he doesn't understand himself. Right. That's why he doesn't get professional, because his problem and his psychological immaturity means that whoever he kills, he will end up in his usual place, be a nobody, and he will kill again and again and again. That's the glitch at the end is. He's still nobody. The world hasn't changed, because if the world has to change, he would have to change, because he would have to get a realistic self view. But he doesn't realize that he's the one that is the one that doesn't fit into the world, instead of the world doesn't fit. So
interesting. When you talk about he'd do it again and again, or other people say do it again and again. The interesting thing is usually when you come down to mass murderers and stuff, they only do it once. It is. They either get killed or they're in prison the rest of their lives. Sometimes a stalker will get away with it. The stalker might, but he's got that kind of mass murder mentality where he just wants that one moment in the sun. So it's not like a serial killer who's gets joy and thrills out of each one.
I understand the point.
Next. Yeah, but I wonder why they didn't. Your idea isn't more thought about, because I swear I'm trying to figure out where I read the argument over the end, because
there's a lot
but
of
your one has not been. I haven't seen yours presented. It's either he killed them all and died, or he killed them all and got feted. It's one of the two, but it's not. Yeah, that it didn't even happen.
So the only two I have read about also. Yeah. But maybe but the dangerous question is here in the end is, Henrik, or whoever you are out there behind the computer talking with the voice of Benny, how come you know this much about Travis? Is that because you are really Travis yourself? How come you know?
I was going to come see you in Denmark, Benny, but I'm only a little worried about ending up in a submarine.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
Is that your moment in the sun? The profiler comes to Denmark and you repeat the other crime as a copycat crime, and it's like, that would make a hell of a movie, wouldn't it? Now you could really be famous. Okay, so I'm getting a little worried.
Yeah.
But have you got anything else on Taxi Driver? I think that was I like that a lot.
The only thing I want to say is it's also Scorsese who made Shutter Island.
Shutter Island, yeah, which I did see. This is one of the problems when It's
not about a psychopath. It's about somebody who is delusional.
Yeah, and I saw Shutter Island. I did. I don't think I loved it. It's not my type of movie, but so I don't remember. That's your favorite movie of all time, Shutter Island?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I'm very concerned about some of my patrons.
Yeah.
No, I mean, think about this. One of the reasons I got rid of the chat room being open to the public, so I keep out the crazies, but I'm not so sure about this.
But then I I got in anyway.
You got in anyway. Oh my God. Let me see what people are saying, by the way. Let's see here. I'm looking back on our chat room here. Lisa N says, great discussion on Talented Mr. Ripley, you two. I really enjoyed it. Very good. Anne says, when is Uber driver coming out? What? Uber driver. Wait a minute. Bree is laughing. This must be something. A friend was attacked by a serial rapist in an Uber and got $2 million settlement. Huh. The best case scenario when dealing with a psychopath is suing Uber for damages. Well, yeah, it's interesting because when you look at taxi driver, a lot of people, there's some people today afraid of Uber, but taxis have always scared me a lot more than Uber did. Oh, so I have to tell you the story though, because I haven't told it before on this channel. I might have. But I prefer Uber because, first of all, they're usually young people trying to make extra money, even going to college and stuff. So you get in their vehicle and it tracks everything. It tracks that it came to your house, tracks you get in there, tracks that they went out of the way. So I like that there's no money involved. So I find Uber much more comfortable myself. Now, one time I went to New York and I flew into LaGuardia and I was meeting with people. I was going to meet with a team that we were going to, it was a production team, I think for Discovery Channel or something. And so I was going to meet them for dinner and I arrived in a rainstorm and you have to, at LaGuardia at that time, Uber wasn't around yet, so you go out to the taxi stand and they give you, the next taxi that comes up, right? And the airport runs this. So the taxis have to go through that taxi stand. And so they call you. It's like, okay, this is your taxi. So this was my taxi. I get in. The dude looks like the Unabomber. I swear to God, a drop dead lookalike of Ted Kaczynski. Looked like the Unabomber. Okay. A raggedy dude. A scary looking dude. So we take off. I tell him what restaurant I'm going to. Give him the address. We start out. It's raining and he's going too fast. I am in the process of getting my seatbelt on because he took off so quickly. I hadn't actually got my seatbelt on yet. I look up and I see he's about to hit the back of another car. And I know he can't stop in time. And I said, oh, crap. So I didn't have my seatbelt on. And you know how the seats are kind of wide in New York taxis, right? So what I did was I dropped my left shoulder forward so that when the impact was there, I would just hit the side of my body into the back of the back seat, right? In the front seat. I'd whack, That was the best I could do under the circuit. So I dropped my left arm, my body to that position. He hit the car. I flew up, smashed into the thing, and fell on the floor. All right. So then he yells back to me, are you okay? Yeah. I said, yes. And he said, good. And then he threw the taxi into reverse and sped away from the scene of the accident. Right. So now I'm like, this isn't good. But then the guy starts going away from the restaurant, the direction of the restaurant. He started going underneath the highway near the river. I mean, in a deserted area near the river under a highway. And I'm like, this is not going to end well. I said, obviously
it's
the
like the
witness
beginning of a movie.
Oh yeah, it was terrifying. I mean, so a moment hit me. I was like, the guy's going to kill me under this highway throw me in the river. Yeah. So what I did was I leaned over the seat and said, hey, dude, I'm late to my appointment. They're waiting for me in the restaurant. I got to get there. Can you get there faster? And he looked at me with this funny look and he turned the vehicle around and took me to the restaurant. And I still believe to this day that because I showed no interest in the accident, was so excited to get to my appointment, he decided she's not going to rat me out. I don't have to worry about it. And he took me where I wanted to go. But I always wonder if I hadn't said that, hadn't played that act, whether he would have just, I don't know. I always wonder what would have happened to me because that was a crazy looking, I mean, he looked like the Unabomber. He was a creepy dude. And so that taxi ride did not make me think that you were safer in a taxi than in an Uber. That was pretty freaking scary. That was pretty scary. Let's see what else says here. Yeah. Similar to Andrew Cunanan, who murdered Versace. Yeah, that was an interesting one. So Andrew Cunanan went on a spree, and he killed a lot of people. He was a spree killer, and I can't remember why he did what he did. Michaela says, psychopathy, fake it till you make it. Well, I've done that. Oh, shoot. And that says, great analysis, Benny. I agree. I think that was, especially with Taxi Driver, I think that's superb. That was superb. I'm happy to hear that one because it's better than mine, because I'm like, they shouldn't have done the second half of the movie. But if you're correct that it's all in his mind, then I think it's great. I don't know that that's why they wrote it that way. I don't think they did, but I like your version of it because now I like the movie even better. Lisa N says, you made me want to watch Taxi Driver, which I haven't been tempted to do before. Love other Scorsese movies, but that never appealed before hearing Benny and Pat's interpretations. Oh, see, we're helping out Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I know the thing about these three movies, The Cell, which I did not love, but I see your point on the visuals. Had I not recently done all these immersive virtual reality things that just were so amazing, that kind of just went by me, and the acting and the plot was so horrendously bad that I had trouble focusing on the visuals. And also, it's a small screen. Maybe on a big screen it would have been better. Talented Mr. Ripley, I liked. You and I disagree on which one's the better one, but you have to go back and find Purple Noon and see what you think. I'm curious. I get where you're coming from on the other one, but I didn't buy it. I really didn't. But Purple Noon, I really thought that they nailed it there. I don't know if I'd like the book, because I think the book followed the Matt Damon version. And as far as Taxi Driver goes, I do think it's one of the best movies ever made. So I really like that movie.
Because I wanted to ask you that. How many times did you watch it? When did you watch it the first time? Because I watched it the first time in 1986. I remember it vividly.
Wow.
I turned 18. I went to the movies and saw it. And I was both appalled, but I was also so deeply fascinated by it. And I knew that there was so many levels, and I had to, just dig deeper into it. I watched it many times since.
I don't know, I don't remember when I first saw it. I mean, I know I saw it before, and I know I thought it was good. My son and I have an interesting relationship with movies, and together. We almost always like the same movies in the same way and for the same reason. So I'm going to say he thinks a lot like me. But it's really fascinating to find out, because we've been to movies where they had this, like, some bizarre humor in it. And like, we're in a theater full of people, and like, we're the only ones laughing. Then we look at each other and go, okay, then why are we laughing and nobody else? And why are we both laughing? And so we have seen, when we see movies, we'll come out and say, that was horrible. Both say the same thing. I always say I really liked that movie. And then we talk about why we both really liked the movie. And we've gone to movies we both thought we'd hate and found we both liked it. So we have a very similar taste in a lot of things, and he's a very good analyst of movies as well, I think. And so we tend to agree. Once in a great while we don't, and then we're shocked almost. It's like, how could you think differently? But I love the way you look at movies.
Ask him what he thinks of The Cell.
Of what? I don't think he'll put himself through that one. No, I don't think so. So. Yeah, I doubt
you give him a choice. It's either watch The Cell or Weekend with Bernie. I think he will watch The Cell.
Well, that's the thing about Weekend and Bernie is I remember watching Weekend and Bernie. I know how old I was. I was my daughter was like 12 and my kids are like 10. I saw Weekend at Bernie's, and for some reason I thought this was so funny, and I'd show it to like some teens, and then I realized when I saw it with them that I was a little embarrassed and shouldn't have shown it to them. And then I tried to watch it recently, and I hated it. So I'm like, it didn't do anything for me. Maybe it's just, he had to be a different age. My most recent movie, by the way, is Das Boot.
Das Boot? Okay. Yeah.
What did you think? What do you think?
Well, that's just excellent movie because it's
100%
suspense and
incredible.
It's
incredible movie.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like you're there in the situation. You can feel it. You can feel the suspense. You can feel the danger. It's almost like you're there.
Yeah. You're stuck in that submarine for a really long time. Yeah. It's very claustrophobic. And again, this is my son. Was my son who recommended it? It must have been my son who recommended it to me. And he's like, it's a war movie, Ma. And I'm a female, so it's not a kind of a female-y thing, No. But in spite of that, I do watch some more movies if somebody says they're really great. I'm a fan of Hamburger Hill, is one of my favorites. And so there are some I actually like, and others I could care less about. But I watched Das Boot, and I'm like, man, that was
Apocalypse
fabulous.
Now?
Huh? Apocalypse Now. I have to go back and rewatch that because I can't remember if I liked it or didn't. Oh, look at this. Lisa says this. Das Boot, my favorite war TV series movie ever. Wow. Okay. So we got smart people here in this this room. It's just grand. So pretty cool when I see people have really a more of a depth when it comes to movies. I don't always have to agree with people, but I like when they have your kind of analytical mind looking at things. And again, I'm seeing things very much when I'm talking about these kind of movies from a very criminal profiler point of view. Yeah. And what I know to be accurate, as opposed to what might make a better movie. I'm trying to think of a movie that was a serial killer movie, which I totally thought was inaccurate, but I liked anyway. I'm trying to think what that one would be that I just thought it was, it amused the hell out of me, even though it would never have happened the way it happened. I'm trying to think now, and I'll have to think about that. I'm not sure. But I'll have to see if Nancy's around, because Nancy's supposed to come in and she's supposed to do Jagged Edge with me. Nancy, are you lurking around any place here, or do I have to give you a ring? She knew it was going to be a while, so I saw her here earlier, but I don't know if she's still here.
She fall asleep.
She could have fallen asleep. But Jagged Edge is it's going to be interesting for me to talk to her about that, because I do not think it's a good movie. But there's someone interesting. Oh, yes, here she comes. Okay, well, I'm going to say goodbye to you. You've been fabulous.
Bye-bye.
Loved you. Bye. Bye, Benny.
Bye.
Hello? Are you there? Wait a minute. Nancy? Uh-oh. I've lost Nancy, I think. Let's see if that's Nancy. Uh-oh. Nancy, call back. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I think, is that you? Let's see if this is correct. Let's see if I can get Nancy back. I think she was calling in, and I don't know if I screwed up when I answered the phone.
Hello.
This Nancy?
Hello.
Nancy?
Yeah. Hi, Pat.
Wait a minute. Why am I hearing phone calls? Why is there double ringing?
Hello. I'm trying to figure out. Hey.
You have me on. Turn off your sound. Turn off your sound from the computer. Did you do it? Hello? Oh, and I've lost Nancy again. Hold on. I'll see if Nancy calls back in. Lisa says while I'm waiting for her, have you reviewed Dexter? I hated Dexter with a passion. It means the overt and well-known representation of a psychopath. So I can't watch that show because I think it's stupid beyond belief and it disgusts me. So there you go on that one. Okay. Let's see. What happened with Nancy? Because I really want to discuss Jagged Edge. Let me try calling her again. So it's the first time for Nancy to call in, so we have to see how these things work.
Okay, here I am.
Hello. Are you without the background now?
Yeah, I got everything turned off. So I hope everyone can hear me.
Oh, you're perfectly clear, and people make that mistake all the time with the background stuff. I don't know how many times, like when people call in for phones, they like turn off the radio, turn off the internet, turn off the TV, because it's always also a lag on it. So what happens is I say turn that off. So, but now it's clear as a bell. Yes.
Okay,
thank you,
good.
Nancy, it's so good that you're calling in today, and I'm excited about talking about this movie.
I'm so excited that I found your show because I only found it a month ago.
Oh, wow. I
watch YouTube all the time, and I can't believe I didn't come across you sooner.
Well, the YouTube algorithm isn't in love with me. Okay. Because of my methodology doing shows, and because I don't do high profile cases and gossip about them and do 20 shows in a row like every day, so that you get what'll happen then is you suddenly get there was a person who was doing one of the cases I know is not a murder, it's an accidental death, and this person has a channel, and they have like within 2 months have like 3,000 subscribers. And I'm like, dang, that took me a year. What the heck? This person. And what happened was they find this whole high profile case, and they get all the people who are obsessed about that case to come in every single day because I want to hear the newest gossip. And so it's like a soap opera. And that gets a high, it gets a high view rate, it gets high subscriber rate, and then the algorithm loves you and they throw you out there, so you get even more views and more subscribers. And then you got people like me who do an educational channel, and the algorithm's like, they're like, yeah, whatever, So that's why I have a slower growing channel, but that's okay because I have superb people who are involved, and I like the community. I like people who are really interested and really interesting. So I'm good with that. It's like, I'd rather.
And I do too, because, I've been interested in this for so many years. And, at times people would make fun of me, like, oh, that's the girl that reads all the crime novels and watches all those shows. And it's nice to be in a community where we all like that.
Right. Well, true crime is obviously extremely popular. The problem is, for me, is that I like to get more understanding of the realism of what's really going on, what happens truly with police investigations, with profiling, with criminal behavior. I want people to understand that. Now, I just not that you can't go and enjoy certain movies that I like. What did Lisa Ann just said? Have you watched Dexter? I'm like, no, I hate Dexter with passion. But hey, there are people who like Dexter, and they get whatever enjoyment they get out of watching it. I don't, people have different viewpoints of, than I do. They like to watch true crime channels that I don't go for, won't recommend, but they like them.
Right.
I mean, that everybody's got their thing, so I don't get into that.
As much as I think Kansas City is a wonderful place to live, we have our share of psychopaths and serial killers. That's for sure.
Doesn't every city? Yeah.
Yeah, we've had Bob Berdella and Gregory Breeden. He threw prostitutes in the Missouri River. Richard Grissom. And interestingly enough, I live just a few minutes from where baby Lisa disappeared. Back in 2011.
Right.
So a lot going on. We had a very famous case. I like old cases too. Back in 1910, it was almost back then as famous as O.J. Simpson at the time, and it was that's what everybody talked about. It was a doctor named Bennett Clark Hyde, and he and his wife, who was the niece of a very wealthy Thomas Swope here in Kansas City. They actually lived in Independence, and he was accused of killing a nephew. They all lived in the same house, and he was accused of poisoning a nephew. The executor of the will got knocked off before Thomas Swope died.
Really?
And what Kansas City gained out of that was after he died, he gifted, or in his will, he had gifted 1,300 acres of land, and that's where we have our Swope Park today, which houses the Kansas City Zoo and the Starlight Theater, and is one of the most beautiful places in our city. But that was a case where he was actually at times would use cyanide, but other times he was a doctor. He would buy typhoid samples, and he was culturing typhoid and making people sick in the house. Now that's really to me a psychopath. But
I have to look into that. Can you just send me over a message with the basic information so I can then look it up?
Yes.
So I won't forget what you're talking about. That is interesting.
Yeah, and he actually went through 3 trials, and the 4th trial they didn't try him again. He was convicted in the first trial, but the Court of Appeals overturned it. So it went on for about 7 years in the legal system. But interesting enough, that happened. There's a book that was written about it called Death on Pleasant Street. But interestingly enough, it was the same motive that I'm going to talk about in Jagged Edge, where they want the money.
Right.
And he was married to the niece who was going to inherit the estate. So, he ended up not being tried a 4th time, and he moved about 30 minutes of Kansas City, but and lived the rest of his life. But that was a huge case back then.
Well, as I say for years, money is a big motive for murder. It really is. It's always shocks me because I guess I've never been a big money hound, so I never understood that if you're already living well enough, I mean, by that I mean above the poverty level, is there really a reason to kill off people just to have more? When you can still do well enough. But apparently, I'm not necessarily. There are other people who think otherwise. Let's put it that way, and they don't want to give up the very fancy lifestyle they have or the power that they have, and they're willing to do whatever they have to do to get that. And so, the motive still exists, and so therein lies the issue of you got to be careful who you marry. You got to be careful with your children. And actually, interesting enough, when you think about it, if you go back in history, one of the biggest threats to any king was his own children. Especially if he was taking too long to kick off. It's like, she's dead. You're still doing pretty good. Are you ever going to die? Because I want to be king. And if you're going to live to 90, it kind of screws me. I'm going to be king till I'm 70. So maybe I could just get rid of you now, and then I get to be king. So you have to be careful of your own children. So the old joke about you just got to be. You want to make sure whoever is near you, that you're more valuable alive than dead. That's what you got to be sure of, and that therefore they have no reason to kill you, keep you alive. So it's very important to know. So Jagged Edge, of course, is a movie about that exact thing. And let me tell you the funny thing about this. I started watching Jagged Edge, and I'm like, I've never seen Jagged Edge before, by the way. And I'm like, why do I know this movie? I'm like, I know what's happening in this movie, and I've never seen the movie before. I'm like, it's driving me crazy. What the heck could it be? Then I realized this was the reason. This movie is called Kasur. It's a movie out of Bollywood, out of India. It's a Hindi language movie. One of the famous actors in there is Rani Mukherjee. It is Rani, isn't it? Manesh and Rani. Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm trying to remember who's in it. I think it is Rani, isn't it? Wait a minute. I lost my mind here. Hold on. Let me pull up Kasur. Oh no, I'm wrong. Sorry, I thought it was Ronnie. Okay, never mind. It wasn't her. Lisa Ray in her Bollywood debut. Okay. Interesting. Ray's voice was dubbed. Well, no wonder everything is sounding strange. Okay. I've forgotten who was in this movie. But anyway, this Kasur movie has nice music in it because it's a Bollywood movie and they add in music to, she meets the guy and she's falling for him, and then they have a musical interlude and they dance around and go on vacations and stuff in the interlude. And have great music. So in the middle of a crime movie, which is very Bollywood. I remembered enjoying the movie. I think I actually even owned the movie. And so I watched Jagged Edge, and then I went back and rewatched Kasur. And basically it's almost word for word the same movie with a couple little changes for Indian culture. And the ending was a bit different and rather stupid. So I would say Jagged Edge was probably, not having the great movie, was probably better. But I have some very interesting things about Jagged Edge. So let me just tell the people the basic plot of Jagged Edge, so they know if they haven't seen it. It's a 1985 American neo-noir. Neo-noir. I always think of noir, but I had never heard of neo-noir. Okay, that's new to me. A neo-noir legal thriller. Let's see. The film stars Glenn Close, Jeff Bridges. Let me show you the picture of here's a cover of sorry, that's Talented Mr Ripley. Sorry, no, hit the wrong one. Where is it? Come on now don't tell me I've lost this one. Oh, here we go. Jagged Edge, there we go. It starred Glenn Close, Jeff Bridges, Peter Coyote, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, Robert Loggia, whatever it is. I don't know him well, but anyway, a lawyer, and that's Glenn Close. Glenn Close is a lawyer, reluctantly takes the case of a man accused of killing his wife, but remains uncertain if he is guilty or not. The plot is this. A masked intruder breaks into the beach house of a San Francisco socialite. Her name is Paige Forrester. He ties her to the bed, rips open her shirt, and kills her with a hunting knife. He also scrawls in her blood, bitch, across the top. of the bed, which is an important part of this case. Her husband, Jack, what happens is he arrives home, gets hit on the head. That's what he says, and blacks out. And when he wakes up, he goes upstairs, finds the maid dead, stabbed to death, or her throat was cut in the hall or in her bedroom. She can see into her room or something. And then he goes into his bedroom and finds his wife tied up and dead, and blood everywhere. All right. So let's see. So he is arrested. Her husband, Jack, is arrested for the murder. And he tries to hire high-profile lawyer Teddy Barnes to defend him. She's reluctant to take the case since an incident with District Attorney Thomas Krasny, her former boss, caused her to quit practicing criminal law. Okay, Krasny tells Barnes that prisoner Henry Stiles hanged himself, which distresses her. Barnes visits Sam Ransom, a private detective, also used to work for Krasny. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, she takes the case, but her problem is, okay, so let me just put the setup here, that Glenn Close was playing this lawyer who stopped doing criminal law because when she was working with the district attorney, he did not turn over evidence to the defense team. And therefore, and apparently she knew about this, and it wasn't turned over. The guy got convicted of a crime he didn't commit. It was prosecutorial misconduct, and the guy went to prison and hanged himself. So she quit after that because she felt like she contributed to his death, which actually she did contribute to his death. She was also involved in prosecutorial misconduct. So she should be disbarred. Both of them should have been disbarred, but they weren't. So they're both lawyers. And so this guy, he's now wants to be represented, and she's reluctant to take the case because she already feels like she's a bad person. I can't remember what happened to Jagged Edge, but in Kasur, she takes the case because she thinks if he's innocent, that saving his life would make up for offing the other guy, somehow balance things out. A debt she feels emotionally and ethically. So she does take the case of this case. And one of the interesting things I want to point out is about the prosecutor. What did you think of the prosecutor, Nancy?
Oh, he was a criminal. I mean, he was basically a criminal.
Why did he want so badly for Jack, the husband, to be convicted?
I guess to make himself look good, and he had political aspirations.
That was it. Not to look good, but the fact was that Jack was head of a newspaper, a big, right, huge newspaper. His wife was originally she owned the whole newspaper. So here's the backstory on that is that Jack met her at a party. Now I might be confusing Jagged Edge with Kasur, but it's basically the same thing. It's just they have the setup slightly different. But they meet, and I think in Jagged Edge, he then ends up going to take a swim at a country club, which he doesn't belong to, and she's there. They start hanging out together. They get married. She's got a boatload of money. He doesn't. But her father owns this paper, and he moves up in the company and becomes the head. He runs the company now, the newspaper. He writes all the he writes all the editorials and all of that. And the editorials he wrote about the district attorney who is running for senator, I believe, aren't kind. So the problem here is that one of the reasons for prosecutorial misconduct is that when you're taking revenge on somebody or have a political reason to want to destroy them. So since this guy was ruining his political career, he should not have even had anything to do with this case. He should have recused himself. He should just, I can't even do anything with this case because obviously I got an issue with the guy. But he stays there and he's just hanging in there. So that's total prosecutorial misconduct because he wants to see this guy get convicted. So he's got personal reasons, political reasons for wanting to do the guy in. And so that right there is really questionable, right? And it's kind of funny that you picked this movie because on Sunday, my show on Sunday is going to be on the case I've been involved with for 24 years. And it has everything to do with prosecutorial misconduct. And I mean, like you would not believe. You're going to be fascinated with this case. Anybody who's listening, gotta go check out my one on Sunday. It's just unbelievable. I was in court for the final arguments. closing arguments. And I just, my mouth, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe this case was even in court. It was, the prosecution had no case whatsoever, not one shred of anything. The stuff they did was so crooked. It's just unbelievable. I'm going to do all that on Sunday. So when
I can't wait to hear that Sunday. I've been waiting for that.
Well, it's coming up. It's coming up. But when you pick Jagged Edge, I'm thinking, here we have prosecutorial misconduct here. Whether the guy's guilty or not, that prosecutor is shady as far as his desire to see this guy convicted is too much, because his desire should only be for justice, for the truth, for the right person being convicted of the crime. Because if you convict the husband and he didn't do it, then you've left a vicious killer that looks like a serial killer, right? Because who else goes into somebody's house?
And later in the movie, he actually pulls police reports that could have pointed to his innocence.
Well,
that happened later on in the movie, but
right. So
one of the things that really interested me that I noticed, it kind of in a way reminded me of Jeffrey McDonald in the sense that he had very little injury, yet the people at the crime scene had been brutally killed.
Well, there's a little difference there. So the thing about that, supposedly the concept here is that Jack killed his wife, personally killed his wife. Apparently they didn't talk about the alibi too much, but apparently did not have an alibi for the exact time that he personally killed his wife and staged it as a serial crime, because she was tied up, her hands are tied up, her clothes were cut open, there's blood everywhere, bitch is written across the top, and she's knifed between the legs, although no sexual assault. But even a serial killer may not actually, maybe the knife between the legs was the sexual assault, not with his own body part. So the theory was by the police that Jack wanted to get rid of his wife because he owned nothing, and if she was talking to some people about divorcing him, and therefore if they got divorced, his idea was that she owned everything, he'd lose everything. But if she died, he'd get everything, because in the will he gets literally everything, including his job at his continues being the head of the paper. So he wins if she dies. And so the motive was clear. There was not an issue about motive. Right. The motive was very clear. The question was, did he do it? Now, with Jeffrey McDonald, he was actually in the house when he claims all of these things went on. Tons of things went on. And yeah, they did attack him first. So there is a similarity. You're right. They did attack him first, and therefore he was unable to help. In this case, what's his name again? Jack arrives home and gets hit in the head when he's just coming in the door. So he can't help anybody. And when he wakes up, it's all over. So I guess, there is a similarity, Nancy. You're correct in that. And it's always interesting when everybody gets murdered, but one person. Right. Yeah, because one of the things you would think, now, Jack was saying he got hit over the back of the head. So the theory here is that he wouldn't have seen the killer, and the killer was dressed in complete black, including a black mask. So he wouldn't know who the killer was, right? So therefore, maybe the killer found no reason to kill him, right? He'd done his thing, and so he just hit him over the head and left. There's some reason in that. Jeffrey McDonald, apparently he saw everybody. Nobody had masks on. They're all chanting and running around in the living room. He saw everybody. So why did they leave him alive? So Jeffrey McDonald has a harder explanation there. This guy could at least say. And
I have to say that out of all of your shows, that was my favorite that you did. Your facial expressions on that show were just to die for. But I've watched it over and over. But one thing, I'm glad that I caught that, because I've studied the McDonald case for years, and not one time did I ever think or even thought about the fact that it was premeditated. And after listening to your show, I think you're right. It was completely premeditated.
Premeditation is a funny thing, because premeditation doesn't have to happen. It can happen in pieces. In other words, first you consider the idea, then you think more about the idea, but you're not necessarily ready to commit the idea, So
Right.
there's a level, and then all
I
of a
think
sudden that day comes, and you go, well, hell, let's might do that now, you know.
And I think the reason that he took the girls to ride the pony earlier that day was so that when this happened, he could say, well, you know, I couldn't be guilty of this. I took my girls to ride the pony. So I think that was part of his plan also. But
well, you're right.
What
a way to put it, you know, you make yourself look like a great guy, because people have a really hard time going from happy scene to murderous scene, or happy scene to suicide. Because I've been talking about the suicide case recently, the 12-year-old boy, Sean Doherty. And happy scene, now he's dead. He's supposedly committed suicide. Family can't accept that. Now, I've looked at it so far, it looks like a suicide. I'm willing to work with the family to determine if it was not. However, to go from happy to that, you know, so if you're going to kill somebody, invite them to dinner first. Be really nice to them. Let everybody see how happy a couple you are, and then do them in on the, you know, when you walk in.
And the thing that struck me the most about Jagged Edge was that exact same thing with Jeff Bridges. Was so charming and so handsome and so nice, and it was hard to reconcile him being the guilty one. And also when he was manipulating Glenn Close so that she would be on his side, and he did that with romance and being very nice and solicitous to her.
Why do you think he picked her? Why do you think he wanted her? Do you think he didn't know who she was? Or do you think he did his homework?
Well, I watched the movie this morning. I hadn't watched it in years. And the law firm picked her. They wanted her to represent him.
But they were his lawyers.
Yeah, so I don't know that he actually picked her, but I'm sure once she was picked or agreed to do it, they had to talk her into doing it.
Right.
He thought, "Oh wow, I've got this."
You know, that makes me wonder, because in this, just for anybody who doesn't understand the rest of this, let me just give them a little heads up on this. So essentially, what happens is that the question is, Glenn Close, what's her name in this movie?
Teddy.
Huh? Oh, what? Teddy.
Teddy.
I guess it's Theodora, right? Anyway, Teddy is the girl, the woman. She takes this case reluctantly. She tells him, if you lie to me, I'm off this case. And which goes to show she doesn't follow her. Let me put it this way. Teddy should not be a lawyer. She shouldn't. First of all, she should have been disbarred. But she takes this case, and one of the things you see with her is she spends an awful lot of time with her client in places she shouldn't be. Because where you see your client is in an office. If your client's not in jail, you see him in an office situation. You don't see him at dinner. Now, I know in Kasur, they're having conversations at a beautiful candlelit dinner with wine. This is not where you meet with your client. And also, she ends up at Teddy and Jagged Edge ends up at his home, and let's say they end up riding horses, and then they end up in the stable kissing. I got this right? Yeah, they're kissing in the stable, and then she gets back to her house, and they're kissing again, and her kids catch her. But then she goes to his house. They end up sleeping together, so they end up having sex, and she falls in love with him because he's pretty attractive. You know what I mean? Pretty attractive. And so she's a lonely woman. She's divorced. And he sees, I personally think I would think if a guy's going to plan a murder this meticulously as they're claiming he did, I would think he'd have his eye out on who's going to end up, who he's going to accept as a lawyer. Maybe he did just accept her as a lawyer, but he has an option to pick out a lawyer, any lawyer, because he's rich as crap, right? So, but I think she was a patsy for him because he's still an emotionally needy person. But she like Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs, you're in the wrong business if you cannot control yourself. I mean, I've worked in this business for a long time. I don't, you can't get emotionally involved with who you're dealing with, because that's unethical. That's totally unethical. And so she's sleeping with the client she's representing. I'm sorry, I don't care if you think he's totally innocent and you think therefore it doesn't matter if you sleep with him. No, but when you have a romantic relationship, it blurs your ability to think straight. And so that's exactly what he was trying to do, right, Nancy?
Right.
I mean,
right. That's exactly what he was trying to do, and
exactly what he wanted to do. So he got her into this where she was totally believing that he was Mr. Innocent, because he was a very attractive guy. Also, the wealth. We have to look at wealth as well, because when you're taking a look at, and this is good, psychopaths could do this very well. They know where your weaknesses are. Some of them, especially the more intelligent ones, they know where your weaknesses are, and they'll play to your weaknesses, because those are things that you want in your life. So if some guy came to me and said, Pat, I want to offer you a life where we live on a beautiful, beautiful lake in the woods of Minnesota, and we'll be there. We'll just have each other. I mean, I'm going to run for the door. First of all, I don't like cold weather. I don't want to be on a lake in the woods. I don't want to be stuck with you every day. That would not do a thing for me.
And there's one scene in there where they're sitting in his living room, and they have Chinese food and candlelight and wine, and that's definitely not ethical.
No, it's not ethical. And the thing is, she's looking at him as she's a lonely woman who would love to have somebody in life again. Here's a guy who's wealthy beyond belief and is offering her this gorgeous life. As I said, and you can't fool me with making me want to go live on a lake in Minnesota in a cabin. But let's say I meet a guy and he claims to me, you see this in the show I did on Tinder Swindler. Because why did those girls go for the Tinder Swindler? Because he was supposedly rich and he had a private plane and he's going to take them all over the world, And if you for example, I've never gotten to ride first class fly first class, right? I always have to sit in those crappy coach seats and it's painful. So I meet a guy who's rich as crap who says, I can take you you've been wanting to go to Australia to eat your Australian patrons, right? I'll take you on my jet, or I'll pay for you to have a first class seat to Australia so you can lay down and sleep. Oh my God, I'm going to go for that guy. Because I want first class. I want to be able to lay down on a plane. I don't care if I like to lay down and I've never been able to do it. So I'm tortured the whole time I'm flying. So I could be pulled into that. So what he's doing is, if he were let's say some guy killed his wife and had her for a lawyer, but he lived in a small 3-floor walk-up apartment and took the bus every day. Do you think she's fallen in love with that guy? Probably not, So, he's able to get her attention because he's offering her, he's handsome, he's got money, and that's a lifestyle she wants. So he really suckered her into that. And one of the interesting things, what part do you remember in the movie, which I think was one of the most telling things about a psychopath? This was, I think, the number one psychopath issue in the movie. So should they bring the prosecution brings into court a woman. Now, he claimed he never cheated on his wife. Well, then they bring in this woman who claimed they had an affair. And of course, she's all, Teddy's all upset now because finds out he lied. He did have an affair with somebody when he was married. And then they describe how he worked with this, how he gets his women. And supposedly he gets his women by doing all the things he did with her, taking her horseback riding.
Right.
And she's like,
yes.
She's horrified because she realizes he did the same exact thing with her. So now that's where the
pony.
Yeah. The trust just went right out the window then when she realized this was a methodology he used. And this is very, very psychopathic, because when they find a good methodology that works, they use it because they have their little plan and they just run it. And in Kasur, his thing was he had flowers and he took the ladies to see the flowers and talked about the beauty of nature. It's kind of funny because in the Indian movie, they had slightly different plan for how to get the ladies. But yeah, so he did this with every woman. And that's where she suddenly realized, oh my God, this guy lied to me and he said he'd never lie. And now he's played me, which he did. And so now she does not trust him. So,
but what's so interesting about what I think sets him apart, and maybe it's more because you asked the question yesterday, is it more like reality or fiction? Right. And I think it's more like fiction in the sense that he planned this a year before. He started breaking into women's houses and doing the knife thing and ripping off their clothes so people would think there was this serial attacker out there, so that when he did it to his wife, which was his ultimate goal, that they would not suspect him and think it was this serial attacker. Right. And he did it around the beach house where his wife lived, did it in the same neighborhood.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. You're absolutely, that's great. That's great. You hit it. That was my number one issue with this movie. So I'm so glad you got the same idea. Yes. So it's amazing because they could have done it in a different way, which would have been more realistic. So here's the concept, like you point out. So a year and a half before. So this is what happens is after she thinks he's a bad guy now, right? So she thinks maybe he's guilty. She's going to quit the case. Then her investigator finds this. Okay, wait, let me get it straight. Letters are being sent to him. Letters are being sent to Teddy, the lawyer, that keeps saying he's innocent. He's innocent. And then
on a typewriter.
On the typewriter. This is important, guys. Yeah. So it's this weird typewriter.
On the typewriter.
Right. And you know, typewriters, every time there's a movie where the typewriter becomes important, those keys don't work right. And so the letters are like this, you know, so obvious that, if the T is up here, it's that typewriter, you know. It's like, most of the typewriters I worked on didn't have things set out of place, but okay. So anyway, a particular typewriter. And these letters are coming. And so what happens is, so somebody says to her, you know, I don't remember if this is Kasur or this one. Hey, I'm going to say he's sending those letters to you, you know, that he's innocent and something you should go talk to this person. They're coming from him to get you to go talk to that person. Well, she goes, go talk to that person. And that person turns out to be the woman who claims that a year and a half prior, she had the same thing happen to her. The guy came in the house, he tied her up, he cut her, but he had just cut her a little bit, not much, but just enough blood to write bitch above her head, and then left the knife between her legs, but actually didn't kill her, didn't rape her, and didn't kill her, because this, I don't know why you want a live witness, but okay. So anyway, she's alive. And one of the thoughts I had was, well, this is a similar crime a year and a half later for sure. So it could be a serial killer. And again, serial killers don't usually do exactly the same thing in every scene. So that was fakey right there. You know, bitch, you know, probably not. But okay. But if it was two scenes that the same exact thing was similar, you would think it's probably the same guy, right? So my question was this: well, wasn't this all in the newspaper? Wasn't this everywhere? I mean, and supposedly the crooked defense attorney knows this stuff and hid it from her. And they had actually gone out after the second crime, after the wife was killed, went out and talked to this woman and said it wasn't connected. So they wanted to hide her so they could charge the husband, knowing full well that there was another similar crime. So we have prosecutorial misconduct again. But what's weird is that you would think a crime like that would have been all over the dang newspapers, wouldn't you, Nancy? You know? I mean, yeah. It shouldn't have been a secret. So here's what I think would be much more realistic. If you knew that somebody had been attacked in a nearby neighborhood and this word had been written above her head, or maybe the word wasn't supposed to be known, but maybe you found it out through police channels. You know, you can find things out because he's rich, right? He finds out about this case that this word nobody knows about, bitch, was written above her head. And he says, hey, I'm going to kill my wife. I'm going to copycat that other murder. That way they'll think it's the same guy. That would make more sense. That would be more realistic, that you copycat some other crime so that people think it's a serial killer. But the fact that he would plan it a year and a half ahead of time and go out there and set this whole thing up a year and a half ahead of time, wait patiently for a year and a half to then commit it again.
Yeah. Well, maybe he enjoyed it. Maybe he enjoyed terrorizing.
Well, it was only one woman. He didn't terrorize any. It's just one. Set this thing up, and then of course, what happened is he sent the letters to the lawyer, so she would talk to the lady and would connect it to this, and then of course he gets off in court because and then they pin it on they pin it on the creepy dude at the
the blonde,
the creepy
blonde
dude from
guy
the country club who said that he found the same knife, the type of knife in the husband's locker, in his locker at the country club. He saw the knife once upon a time in the husband's locker, and then it turns out later he saw the wrong knife. It was a different locker and it was a different knife. How convenient. That made no sense. I didn't believe that one for a minute. But anyway, that guy's so creepy. They then suspect he's the guy that attacked both of the women, and he gets charged. The husband goes free. He gets exonerated, found not guilty. The other guy gets charged. And then, of course, silly Teddy is now over at handsome guy's house having sex with him again, and he goes off to take care of the horses for some second, and she goes into the closet and accidentally runs across the typewriter. She puts a piece of paper and types, and oh look, the letters are the same as and she realizes, oh my God, he was the killer. He did send me the letters. He's the guy that he killed his wife, and she runs off with the typewriter.
And I remember when I first saw this movie, I was holding out hope to the very end
right.
that it wasn't Jeff Bridges. Until the very last scene, I'm just thinking, it can't be him. It can't be him. He's so nice.
Right. Well, they did a good job of that. I mean, when I was watching it, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I remember the movie ending, because I saw Kasur, with a bad ending. You know what I mean? And I'm like, so here she is. She's in the bed. I'm like, it's only, I look how much time is left in the movie. Oh, 10 minutes. Oh, it's bad news. Something's going to happen here. And then the typewriter was found. And, but you see, one of the things they do with these movies is sometimes when they put these things together in totality, they don't make total sense. As you're watching the movie, they work out. But when you look back, you go, how would that really have happened that way? Or is it even logical? Because I say he would have copycatted a crime. I mean, to think that he's going to plan this out by killing he didn't kill the woman. He just scared her, really, because he terrified her, but he didn't actually.
Right.
Outside of a little bit of blood, he didn't really damage her that much.
And this screenplay was written by Joe Esterhaus, who also wrote Flashdance and Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone. And I love Basic Instinct also.
Yeah, I'll have to look. I haven't seen Basic Instinct in how many years either. So
I haven't seen it since the late 80s or early 90s when it came out. But I remember the next day at work, all my coworkers, we just talked about it all the time. But he also wrote a movie called Jade, which I was hoping would be as good as Jagged Edge, but it really didn't live up to it. It was okay. But I remember just being blown away by Jagged Edge. And for those people who haven't seen Jagged Edge,
we just ruined it for them. So sorry. We should have done the spoilers thing at the top. Okay, when I put up the information below, when I go public with this, I'll put up spoilers. I forgot to tell everybody here spoilers.
You can't talk about it without giving it away.
That is true. Yeah,
and
that's true.
The Jagged Edge, of course, is the 6-inch hunting knife with the jagged edge, which they talk about a lot. One thing, and it's kind of out there, that I thought in the first scene of the movie, he's coming up the steps to murder his wife, and the music, it was just so creepy. The music, and not music, but the sounds they used. And one thing I thought about is, and I wasn't married then when it first came out.
And you never got, and you got married after you watched it?
He was completely disguised with the mask, the clothes, the gloves. And I often thought, would you know or sense that was your husband? So it's something that I've always wondered about. Did she have a realization?
Would he even care that she knew it was him?
And she may have been so terrified she couldn't even think straight because he woke her up in the middle of the night. But and then he killed the maid for good measure, I guess, so she wouldn't be a witness.
I guess there was no maid's day off or anything. To kill this gets a little concerning for me as far as when we talk about what is it realistic to just realistic in general. that a guy who apparently did so well for so long in life would take this methodology, having to kill, fake a rape and then kill the maid and kill. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. Unless they
right,
show,
and I thought about that when you were talking to Benny about the other movie, because you mentioned that and you said, Jack wasn't a loser. Jack, he had worked at the paper for 15 years.
Well,
and
he was a theoretical, like Mr. Ripley. He was trying to, move up in society, but again, not too sure whether he was a social climber or just happened to meet the right person. Because you have to be fair. Sometimes when somebody has money marries somebody without money, the accusation toward the person who doesn't have money is they're just a social climber, or they're just a con artist who's trying to, what Mr. Ripley wants to get what other people have. But sometimes you just meet those people, I mean, you just happen to have different economic circumstances. It doesn't mean that the person who has lesser economic circumstances is only going with a person for their money. But I mean, it is a concern. But apparently, yes, he was talented, and the wife actually did not want to divorce him because he was so good at the job. She was actually supposedly having affairs of her own. They weren't getting along. They were both having affairs, and they were asked, "Why did you divorce him?" She's like, "Well, he does a great job at the paper." So they kind of gotten into their separate worlds. Well, if that's true, I don't know why he needed to knock her off anyway, because he was already keeping his job, had a lot of money, and he could have girlfriends. I mean, I'm thinking most guys would think this is a great deal. So why would he need to kill her? Why would he need to risk all that? Now let's say she did decide to divorce him. I doubt seriously he would lose 100% of everything. There's community property issues. There's other things. He's also got a great job. They love him at the paper. They're not going to kick him out. He's got a high salary. So the risk of what he would have to do makes no sense, because he would have so much anyway. I mean, I don't think he'd lose the house. They were married for years. They had no children. Unless she, and the will, everything went to him in the will, true. But still, even if they divorced, who's she giving that stuff to? They're just going to split the house, and he'll keep his job because she thinks he's great. I don't understand the motive is kind of crappy, because it wasn't like she was brokenhearted. He was cheating on her. She was cheating on him. So who cared?
Yeah.
So
but it made for a great movie.
Huh?
It made for a great movie. It kept me on the edge of my seat.
Right. I agree with you with that. I think it was, the suspense was really good. It was also good in Kasur. If you want to see the Indian version, anybody wants to see an Indian version, if you're Indian watching the show, Kasur. Let me mention the ending before you go, because I think the ending was laughable. The reason it was laughable is she finds the typewriter. Typewriter is evidence. She is willing to allow somebody else to go to prison, essentially, by not turning the typewriter over as evidence. But she goes home and she plans in Jagged Edge, spoiler ahead, of course, no, that he catches her leaving the house. She's supposed to be like, they're going to have breakfast. And suddenly she's running to her car saying, "Oh, my son is sick." And then the typewriter's in the car and she barely gets away with the typewriter. And then he calls her and you see her in the house, and he breaks into the house dressed in all black. So he's coming to kill her because he realizes the typewriter is missing. I don't know why he realized the typewriter is missing. Did she not know how to put it? Was hidden in the back of the closet. I don't know why he would know that right away. Go figure.
And why would he hide it there? I mean,
why wouldn't you get rid of the damn typewriter?
Yeah, get rid of the typewriter.
Right. But why would you hide? There's places you can put things where they can't access it. The bedroom closet's not the best, and you leave her alone. And it's like, these are the stupid things. But anyway, he comes to kill her, and she's in her bed. So it looks like he's going to reenact the same scene that he did with his wife. And the idea, I think, is the other guy, the country club dude, who's creepy that they're going to charge with the crime. I would have thought he would have already been charged with it. He would have already been arrested right away. So he should be in jail. So if you kill her the same way and the guy's in jail, it kind of looks like you did it. You know what I mean? So that makes no sense to me unless the guy's actually still out
and
there.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that bugged me. And then of course he comes to get her, and then she pulls out a gun and shoots him dead. And so she set him up. She set him up. Now it gets funny in the Kasur movie, the Indian movie. it gets really stupid. I mean, at least in Jagged Edge, she was planning to kill him, right? Setting him up to get rid of him. But in Kasur, she escapes to the typewriter. But she actually isn't just, she's just in the house, and he breaks in and starts attacking her and almost kills her, ties her up. Somehow, just as she's tied up, he gets at the end of the bed. She's able to take her 2 feet, and she hits him with her 2 feet, and he flies through a window and crashes to the ground. Now he's injured, and so she's trying to get away, and he's laying there, and he's not moving. And so she goes to try to start a car, and it's blocked in by his vehicle. So she runs back to him, and she sees the key on his waist, right? So she tries to carefully take the key out. I'm like taking a rock. I'm taking a rock and smashing that dude's head in. I'm not taking the key away. So anyway, she gets the key away, and you're like, oh, you're waiting for him to grab her foot, right? But he doesn't. So he's like, oh man, that's amazing. So she gets the key. Then she runs to the truck. She gets to the truck and starts it. She takes off down the road. And partway down the road, he pops up from behind the seat. I don't know how he got from being lying on the ground injured and got into the truck without her noticing. That didn't figure out. Anyway, they fight, and she runs off the road, and they crash into a pond or something. And now they're drowning in there. And now they get out and they fight in the pond. And now he has her under the water, and he's drowning her. And now by the time it looks like she's pretty much drowned, somehow even though she's been like drinking half the pond, she realizes he still has a knife on his waist. So she grabs the knife and stabs him in the stomach, and then she survives. So worse ending though. Really worse ending than Jagged Edge. But I'm like all the way around, just silliness, you know what I mean? So, but I do think your point about him, he was a very personable guy. In both movies, you like him, and you think that maybe he didn't do it. And the same thing with Kasur. There's that romance is there, and you think, gosh, this is really a nice guy. And you know, I mean, okay, so he's not that bent out of shape about his wife being dead because they didn't have a good relationship. So they've been on the, they weren't in love or anything at that point. So you can see why I'd fall in love with somebody else. But one comment that was made in the Kasur movie, which I think is very psychopathic, is he goes, it was Kasur. So where was that point? He had knocked her out, and he's carrying her up to the bed to tie her up. And he's like, I was gonna be with you, I really liked you. I was gonna be with you, but you had to screw it up. It's like, you could have had me. I could have been your boyfriend. You could have had all this money, but you had to go snooping in my closet. And you blew it. I have to kill you. So then that would be psychopathic. So that was kind of well done, that little comment. But so I think that, like you point out, for him to work all those years and not have a lot of people be suspicious of his behaviors, just, it's a little, you wonder, because what thing about psychopaths is that if they come in and you meet them and you're with them for an hour, you might not see it. But if you hang around them for 24 hours, you start seeing their psychopathic side, because they're psychopaths 24 hours a day. So it's not that they can't be a politician. It's not that they can't be a pastor and Jim Jones. It's not that they can't, be a crook at a high level, but you do see those characteristics. And I don't know, maybe we're only seeing them in those small moments. So they're carefully put together. So he comes off as really nice for almost all of the movie. So you do like him, you do like him, and you do wish both, I hope he's innocent. I really do hope he's innocent. I hope she proves him innocent and they go off into the sunset together. But it doesn't work so well, does it? But I particularly like, my favorite part of the movie was when they started explaining how he treated every woman the same way. I thought that was really good. So yeah, so I like that movie. I'm glad you recommended it, Nancy. I think it's a fun movie to watch. And the chemistry is there. It really is. And they're a handsome couple until they're not. But the methodology of how he would have committed the crime is ridiculous and really silly. Yeah. So that was the one that it's like, probably not. But but I had fun watching it. I've had fun watching Kasur over again. But I did skip. I didn't have much time to watch Kasur because it's getting close to 3:00. So I had to skip all the music. So, which I love dearly.
I'll have to check that out. I've never seen that one.
Well, no, it's actually, I'll put the link below. It's on YouTube with English subtitles. It's not a great movie. I'm just going to say that right up front. It's not. I think Jagged Edge is better, but it just might amuse you to see another version. You know, I'm a big Bollywood movie fan. I love Bollywood movies.
I know
tons of them. But this probably is not one of the better ones. But they still have some really good music in it. And the amusing thing about Bollywood sometimes is that they have a fantasy scene. So in other words, she'll be talking with him as his lawyer, right? And then she'll have a fantasy in the movie. The music will start up and it'll look like they're having a romance. You know, they're going places and they're having all this fun and it's all in the mind. So sometimes even when you have one of my favorites was a Psychopath. I didn't realize it because I'd seen the song before I saw the movie. And it shows him running toward the love of his life. And he's happy and they're dancing everywhere and singing a great song. Later on, I found out he was a stalker. He was trying, I'm like, oh, that guy's a creepy dude. But in the song, he was really nice. You know? So let me see what they have. A few comments here. There's back here, Lisa N says, Dexter is way too violent for me to watch, but I wondered if he was a realistic psychopath, as he is talked about so much. Not in my opinion. Personally. Michaela says the chances of meeting a true psychopath is rare. Oh, I disagree. I run into so many of those suckers. Hare reports that about 1% of the general population meets the clinical criteria. Yeah. Well, I say there's that continuum. So you got severe psychopath on the end, but you know, you got the part where you got a lot of narcissism, which malignant narcissism, borderline personality disorder, things like that going into psychopathy. So I think there's a lot more out there than people realize. Because
I've dated some of them.
Well, there you go. You know. I mean,
well, I actually had one, like you mentioned earlier when you were talking to Benny. We went out on 2 dates, and he wanted to move into my apartment complex and marry me.
Oh,
that
see,
sort of thing.
That's a psychopath. There you go. They don't see the reason for a process for development of a relationship because they've already decided. You see, you know, you're not a part of the decision making. You do understand this. You know, if I made the decision, therefore you should just go along with the program because why not? I made the decision. So yeah, there are a lot more of them out there than people think. I think sometimes I'd say 1%, 1 out of 100 is still a lot. But you know, I think it's more than that. And certainly high levels of narcissism are definitely more than 1%. Of course, serial homicide is a different matter. So when you get to the point of that kind of thing, you're going to get obviously a very low number, but a number enough to screw up your life, maybe. Let's see. Lisa says he should have pushed her off the private deck of a cruise rather than go to all that trouble. Oh my God. Yeah. The Amy Bradley case. So see how these cases come together. Yeah, this is true. I mean, there are easier ways to kill your wife, a whole lot easier than this kind of completely. This was a lot of work because it was a lot of work. Let's put it that way. I mean, to have to fake something, to do a crime so that it would be remembered, so that it would match something later on, not get caught doing that. You have to get through all the blood on him was just him and his wife, not the maid. So somehow he had to cut the maid, kill the maid without getting blood on himself, and change out all the black clothing. Where did the black clothing go? And all the bloody things go. You know, there's a whole lot you got to get away with. You might as well do it the simple way. Let's go on a cruise, honey. Yeah, you bet. We've got a private stateroom with a private balcony. Yeah, I love it, Lisa. Oh, the Bennett Clark Hyde is the poisoning. Bennett Clark Hyde. Okay. Well, okay, I'm going to have to do this. Oh, okay, I don't know if I can do that. Can I do that without knocking you off here? Okay, this is my method of trying to remember things. I take a photo of my own show. All right, now I got that. I'm going to check into that poisoning case. It sounds really interesting. Anne says, thanks, Nancy. Sounds like a good movie. Yes, it was a very interesting movie. And I mean, he's very, very handsome. Let's put it that way. I would have liked to have gone with him. Miami Blues was a good one with Alec Baldwin impersonating a cop. He was a great psychopath. He might be one. But yeah, Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check that one out. I mean, it's interesting how many movies are made about psychopaths. Yeah. So, I mean, we like mystery and we like seeing movies about murder. And so people murdering people are usually psychopaths. So consequently, got a lot of psychopathic movies. I'm going to do a show on books, some of my favorite books of psychopaths. And like, for example, Clockwork Orange, and that was made into the movie. And I would like to compare those to Lolita. Lolita's another one. So I'm going to do maybe a book show. And then, you know, if they made movies out of them, we'll discuss that too. But interesting that, you know, when the psychopaths are also written in literature, because in a movie, you can't go too much into the mind, except for The Cell, which they showed you the mind of the killer. But generally speaking, unless the killer is relating the story himself, you don't get his thoughts. So in the movie, it's a little bit in Taxi Driver, because he did actually speak. That was cool. That was really good. And I think Benny mentioned that, how cool that was, because you're seeing it from his point of view. That's true. Most of the time, you don't see it from the killer's point of view. So books oftentimes will have more information about how the killer is thinking. Unfortunately, most books on serial killers are just disgusting, violent, disgusting, gory stuff, and all stupid. But, you know, but there are other books that are really very brilliantly written. And so I'm going to have Psychopaths and books as a call, and I think that'll be fun. So thank you, Nancy, for showing up. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad you joined Patreon. And,
it was a pleasure, Pat, and thanks for being a Chiefs fan.
A what?
A Chiefs fan.
A Chiefs fan. I was like, what is she talking about? Ever since I was a teenager. Isn't that weird? I don't know why I fell in love with the Chiefs when I was a teenager. And I hated Oakland. So it was that rivalry. And nobody in my family even watched football. I watched football by myself in the basement. And I was a Chiefs fan. Go figure. Maybe it's just some weird teenage thing, but I'm happy to have been that. So again, thank you for having me on. Thank you everybody for being here. And again, like and subscribe and join Patreon and support the channel. And I'll see you guys who's here now, come in Sunday. That is going to be one of the most interesting cases I'll ever do, because I was involved with it from very early on, analyzing the case, profiling the case, determining who the killer was. And it's gone on for 24 years and one conviction of the guy I picked out. And then there's another whole side of this thing, which is what just finished up this week in court. So you're going to really enjoy it. So show up for that. So see you on Sunday, guys.